Hi, how are you? Oh, you're on camera tonight, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah. The residents want to see my face.
Yeah, it's nice.
There's Santa with his little hat on.
Oh, ho, ho. Council President, I was able to get the names of those officers, and I'll have the certificates ready for January 5th.
Great. How far off was I? Wasn't the first name Steve?
It was pretty far off. It was Steve, but it was Corbin, I believe. I have the names. It was actually they were, and the female officer that you mentioned, and then there was actually another officer that was there that I believe Detective Flowers forwarded over and sent to. I have all of the names, and we'll get them on January 5th. I didn't want to rush it at the last minute and have them rush to the meeting and change plans. I didn't know if they were on patrol tonight or anything like that. So the Epiphany is the last day of Christmas, and we'll close them out with that date.
Is Councilman Rodriguez going to read his off, or are you going to read them all off?
No, he asked me to read them all off, and I think what we'll do, all the certificates are generally the same, so I'll read the first one, and then I'll just go through the names of the rest of them, show the certificates briefly, and then we'll move on to the rest of the meeting.
Excellent.
Okay.
This way they can get acknowledged for the good work that they have done in the community, and I have their certificates for signature. Once I get the signatures on them, I'll mail them out, because I don't want people coming into the office, just to limit the exposure, not for something like that, so I can mail those out. That's not a problem. And there's a new strain going around. They say is much more contagious, and they don't know if it's here yet. Some people think it is, so I just want everybody to be extra, extra safe.
I said mutating.
So close to the end. So close to the end. I have 529.
Good evening. This is Barrett Young from the Rescue Mission at Trenton. How is everyone this evening?
We're fine.
Good.
And good evening to you too, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
This meeting is being
Chris Borden,
I am in one
also
of
from
Barrett's
Rescue
houses,
Mission.
and I want to just say hello to him.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the council
Mr.
president is going to start the meeting, so if everybody can mute themselves and remain silent unless acknowledged by the chair, it'd be greatly appreciated. This is the Trenton City Council meeting, December 22nd, 2020. Council President, you have the floor, man.
This meeting is being called to order. Adequate notice of the meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, pursuant to Public Laws 1975, Chapter 231. This agenda is complete to the extent known and was sent to the Trenton Times and the Trenton paper, posted on the first floor bulletin board in the City Hall and filed in the City Clerk's office and posted on the City of Trenton's website. Formal action. Roll call, Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Present.
Mr. Blakely is present. Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson.
Present.
Councilmember Harrison. Councilmember Michelle. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilmember Vaughn. Councilmember Harrison. Councilmember Vaughn.
Present.
Councilmember Harrison is present. Councilmember Vaughn. Council President McBride.
Present.
Yes, ma'am. We have a quorum. And I'll call the department heads. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cherry. Mr. Manali.
They are mute.
I don't see them as here.
I see Mr. Cherry is in.
Present. I'm sorry, I was
Oh, you're
muted.
fine, Mr. Cherry.
Mr. Cruz is attempting to log on as we speak.
Very good. I see Mr. Williams here from the law department. Mr. Williams, is there anyone else here, sir?
So, to unmute yourself, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. I think Assistant City Attorney Abdul Razak should be on as well.
Ms. Razak, have you joined us yet? Okay. Director Coley. Director Coley. Acting Director Mason.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Director Delisle.
Present.
Mr. Cruz is logging in. Director Onatieri.
Present.
Director Richardson.
Present.
Director Lavender.
Present.
And Director Schoener. Ms. Schoener, have you joined us, ma'am? I actually see you here. I see that you are muted.
Mr. Clerk, I also made it in. Adam Cruz,
Yes,
good
sir.
evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Clerk. This is Jacqueline Abdul-Razak, Assistant Municipal Attorney. I made it in as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Vaughn, have you joined us, ma'am? Council President, we have a quorum. We are prepared to proceed. Would you like to proceed with
Everyone needs to mute themselves.
Yes, if you could please mute yourselves. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Some of it I think is coming off of me, so I'm going to change my volume adjustments here. And if we're ready, I will now proceed with the invocation. If we could all bow our heads. Almighty God, we ask you to look down upon... I'm sorry, ma'am.
I see Councilwoman Vaughn has joined us.
Councilwoman Vaughn, have you joined us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
I apologize.
Oh, you're fine, ma'am. Now proceed with the invocation, if everyone can bow their heads. Almighty God, we ask you to look upon our families, friends, and neighbors this holiday season and keep them safe. Let each heart be filled with joy. Let each hearth keep them warm. Let each table be bountiful, and let there be peace. Let us start the new year with renewed resolve to act in your name, and let this council be governed by the wisdom you inspire. We humbly invoke thy name and ask you to bring comfort to the suffering and wellness to the sick. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We could all rise for a flag salute. Councilmember Rodriguez, as a former member of the military, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Flag,
United States
United States of America, Republic.
and to the republic for which stands one nation
Stands
under God,
nation,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Oh,
Thank you, sir. Council President, would you like me to proceed with the presentations?
Yes, please.
This evening, we have a number of presentations for businesses in the city that have gone above and beyond the call of duty, have stayed open, have delivered food to people, have provided food to people, and have provided other services. And the City Council wanted to acknowledge these people. And we're going to read off the first certificate, and they're all pretty much of the same verbiage. So we're going to go with just showing the certificates after that. And we thank you. And these are businesses that have really done a good service to the community. We're going to start off with Arlee's Raw Blends. And this certificate is presented to Arlee's Raw Blends in recognition of your dedication to keeping the community served during the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring that the needs of the public were met. The Trenton City Council thanks you for your dedication and commitment to the community. December 22nd, 2020. And thank you to Arlene's World Blends. We also have Beauty World. And Beauty World is also in Trenton, and they stayed open and they helped a number of people during the pandemic, and the Trenton City Council is very, very grateful. In addition, and what a lot of people here cannot do without, is we have bits and pieces of uniforms who help our firefighters, police officers, and our other first responders, including doctors, nurses, a lot of other people acquire uniforms, especially during the pandemic, to keep them safe. So we thank you for that. We have Casablanca Restaurant, who has helped through the Merchants Association to help provide food and do food drives from people out in the community, and that is greatly appreciated. Councilman Rodriguez wanted to acknowledge the Casablanca Restaurant. We also, Councilmember Rodriguez also, and the City Council wanted to recognize Delia's Empanada Cafe, also for dedicating, and serving people and helping serve people food, doing food drives, showing up during the pandemic. In addition, we also, Councilmember Caldwell Wilson and the City Council wanted to recognize Fabio's Pizza for staying open and helping deliver food and keeping people fed during the pandemic. In addition, we have Councilmember Caldwell Wilson and the City Council wanted to recognize Golden Chicken. Likewise, another establishment that stayed open, kept serving people, showed up, delivered food, helped feed people during the pandemic. The House of High End is someplace that, that also Councilmember Caldwell Wilson wanted to recognize for staying open, helping meeting people's needs. A lot of businesses stayed open and regardless of COVID-19 continued to serve the public and try to do their best, and the council was very appreciative. Next we have, and Councilmember Rodriguez wanted to recognize Manny's HVAC and Home Improvements for going into people's homes during COVID-19 and helping get their heat turned back on and helping repair their systems, regardless of their own safety, continuing to do that. And that was greatly appreciated. Another business that stayed open and has helped feed a lot of people and provide services to the community is Monchi's Deli Grocery. And Councilman Rodriguez wanted, and the City Council wanted to acknowledge Monchi's Deli Grocery. In addition, another restaurant that really reached out and went out into the community to help, with food drives was Sabor Latino Restaurant. And the Trenton City Council and Council Rodriguez wanted to recognize them as well and greatly appreciate their support of the community. And it helped keeping us, all trimmed and fit and continuing to do it according to the rules with protocols of social distancing, Success Barbershop and Salon. And Councilmember Caldwell Wilson and the Trenton City Council wanted to recognize the Success Barbershop and Salon for staying open and serving the public, despite dangers to themselves during the pandemic. And also now, this is also somebody who is part of the Latino Merchants Association, Mr. Ramin Arias. And he owns Tony's Liquor Store, and they did, with other businesses, went out and really did a lot of food drives and have shown up in parks and have distributed food to people who have needed it throughout the pandemic. So all of these people have contributed to the greater Trenton community in a significant way and putting themselves at risk to keep serving the community. And the Trenton City Council wanted to recognize you for doing that. Once the certificates are signed, considering the holidays, I will be sending these certificates out to the members, to the businesses. And once again, everybody here is very, very grateful for you continuing to support the community. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
Council President, we will now go to communications and petitions and reports. There are 16 communications and petitions from the clerk's office. The clerk has a report also submitting the monthly revenue report for the month of November of 2020. The funds collected by the office was $2,078. It should be significantly higher than the next meeting as the business licenses come in. Do I have a motion to approve the 16 communications and petitions and the financial report of the clerk's office?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Rodriguez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. Communications and petitions are approved. Council President, I believe you wanted to We have a second hearing of the bond ordinance. Did you want to do the introduction before or after that?
Yes, we could do the bond hearing before.
Yes, ma'am.
To move. Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. So I now declare open a public hearing on bond ordinance 20-55, a bond ordinance providing for phase 3 of the lead service line replacement program in the Trenton Waterworks service area by and in the city of Trenton, the county of Mercer, state of New Jersey, appropriating $15 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $15 million of bonds or notes to finance the cost thereof. Any members of the public wish to be recognized to speak on bond ordinance 20-55? Please raise your hand and seek recognition. And we have Sherry Garrett, who wishes to be recognized to speak on the bond ordinance, the Council President.
Yes, thank you.
Can you state your name, please?
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you state your address for the record, please?
Oh, yes. I'm Sherry Direct in the West Ward, Bruce Park Drive. I sent an email around based on the press release submitted on behalf of the mayor of Trenton, because I did speak with Michael Walker with Trenton Waterworks this afternoon. I didn't really get many of my answers. Well, he did answer, but it was more directing me to file OSHA for files and information. And just to sum it up real quick, I think it's very important that Trenton Waterworks keep some transparency, because the amount of money that they're asking and the amount of contracts, the price tag for these contracts that they awarded to South State and Company and Spinella companies, I think it's just outrageous. It's more than what I heard over the last year in regards to what it will cost us. And I did ask why, if they were Trenton Waterworks personnel actually working alongside of these contractors, and Mr. Walker stated to me, no, they were not, because they have a limited staff of 200 people, and that those the personnel that would be able to do that work are assigned other projects that takes precedence. So that's why and they also were trained. They did get technical training to actually provide the service for the lead pipe removals, but they don't have significant staff, and plus the staff that they do have are assigned some other projects. It takes precedence. Some play on words. But make a long story short, I think it's astronomical. I did, as I explained to Mr. Walker, I did do some research for different cities within the United States and different states that are dealing with water quality issues and that had to replace the lead lines. And most of those municipalities had assigned that work to their personnel within that water unit, and it didn't cost as much and the cost of what it's costing. So Mr. Walker thought he was giving me some education on what it takes to, and I did that, and I explained to Mr. Walker, I understand what labor, what goes into digging up those the concrete and the trenches and laying down that pipe and replacing that soil or whatever and whatnot. I did look into that, and still with the technology and whatnot, it still should not cost that much. And as you see that The mayor is asking, Trenton Waterworks is asking $15 million to complete phase 3 of 1,800 pipes. And if you also look, the project phases are overlapping. It's too much money. And I think, you know, for this job, Mr. Walker said it's 37,000 pipes that has to be changed. With that amount, it should only cost $25 million for 3,700 pipes. So they're getting rich off of this job. And in construction, you know that when you have this amount of work, they usually, it's just like buying wholesale. You set these contracts up as retail, where this is a wholesale job, but you priced it at retail prices. It's just ridiculous. So, you know, and then he says, well, you know, it's too complex and too involved for the communication department at Trenton Waterworks to actually put up this information on the website, because based on Trenton Waterworks is under the administrator's website, it's too much information, it's too complex. Like, really, guy, to upload an attachment on a web page? Give me a break. Like, you know, it's just nonsense. It's no transparency. I just think that this, you know, we're paying out too much money. I asked him about the debt plan. Like, you know, all he's telling me about is that they raised the rates, you know, after 10 years, and we're going to raise it again, you know, to cover this debt. And as I stated, you know, who's paying this? The Trentonians? Because I know that there's going to be some backlash when Hamilton, Lawrence, and Ewing if these rates go up. So who's going to be stuck? Who's going to be stuck with these rates? And again, I like to know, he didn't even talk about, you know, it was in the paper about they're not even going to install these meters. We already passed the bond for $50 million. So what's the deal with that? So, you know, to me, it's not transparent. It's not information that we as the public who is going to be stuck with this. And as we know, the economy is not great on the state and federal level. So, you know, I think we need to look at this. I think we need to renegotiate these contracts with these two contractors. I think it's just too costly. It's just ridiculous based on this timeline and based on what he presented in the paper. It's going to cost us close to $300 million just to do this lead pipe removal. And then they say 77%, and the rest of the 7% has to be done in 6 months, or they have in 6 months. And I'm saying to myself, this ain't even 7% or 21% completed in 6 months, and you got this dated for a year. Like, this is a lot of contradicting here. I just think that this is not managed correctly. And then you're telling me you hired all these consultants that doesn't work for Trenton, but we're paying Trenton salaries. We're paying consultants to make decisions, and their decisions is based on them getting paid. It's not based on the investment of them living here in the city. So I just think that, you know, some more information needs to be given, and other than what's just in this here and all this legislation and DEP on federal. Yes, they want quality water, but not for you to bankrupt our water facility. Like, this is ridiculous. Everyone's getting paid but the people in Trenton. And then you want to pass these committees so people can understand how government works. Why don't you start a CETA program where these young people and other people can get paid? We're hiring all these freaking consultants at high retail rates. This is ridiculous. It's robbery. That's all I gotta say on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Unmute yourself,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Collins.
Council President. Council President Caitlin Fair wishes to be recognized by the council.
Yes, go right ahead.
Ms. Fair, please state your name and address for the record. You are recognized.
Good evening, everyone. Caitlin Fair, 215 South Clinton Avenue, Trenton, New Jersey. I also had the opportunity to speak with someone from Trenton Waterworks, Kristen from Trenton Waterworks, who gave me some really great information specifically about this monies that is being requested to be borrowed from the state for this program. But before I get into what she shared with me, I just want to say that I understand from my own research on Newark's lead line service replacement program, as well as some other cities, that this is an extremely costly project, especially with the unfortunate way that Trenton has had to roll it out due to some of the different restrictions that our local finance board has placed on the program, where we can't do blocks at a time and, do multiple houses because we're depending on individuals to sign up for this program. So if people who all need their lead service lines replaced in the same block, but they don't all sign up at the same time, that means that we have to go back into certain other, certain spaces to tear up the streets again to replace them. Because of the way this program was rolled out, to no fault of Trenton Waterworks, but because of the restrictions that the local finance board has placed on this program and the implications of that. But I say all that to say this is an extremely costly project. This is not a cheap thing. The $25 million doesn't even cover a fraction of what this will cost. This will certainly cost over $100 million to complete in the city as well as the neighboring townships that Trenton Waterworks serve. So I think it's really important to have an understanding of what the true scope and cost of this program is. But what I really wanted to say was that the state has allowed so part of the reason why Trenton Waterworks is bringing up a second bond ordinance for this $15 million is because at the time that they brought up the initial bond ordinance for $25 million earlier this year, that was based on an estimate of what the state would be allowing them to borrow for this specific program. After that, the state approved up to $40 million to borrow for this specific purpose. Which was an increase from the amount that was allowed to be borrowed the previous year. And so that's why they're looking to bond this additional $15 million. But I think the really important part is that this loan comes with 50% loan forgiveness. So if council approves Trenton Waterworks to borrow this money, we would be forgiven 20 of the $40 million that we would be borrowing, which I think is a wonderful thing. And there's no guarantee that that will be the case in years to come if we look to bond additional monies in the future for this program. So I think it's important to look at the true scope and costs of this program and the opportunity that we are being provided by the state here to borrow additional monies that have been moved from other parts of the budget and allocated specifically for this for municipalities to use to replace their lead service lines, because the state is viewing this as a priority, and the fact that this money is coming with a 50% loan forgiveness. To me, that is a wise financial investment. We don't want lead in our drinking water. I don't want lead in my drinking water. My neighbors don't want lead in their drinking water. And I don't want to wait around for anything, quite frankly, to start mitigating and remediating this issue. We can't afford that. The longer that people are drinking lead in their drinking water, the more implications, the more serious those implications become. The more permanent and long-lasting and more impactful those consequences are. And so this is an urgent issue. This is an extremely urgent issue, and I think we need to take action on it, and I think that we need to be wise in the way that we're trying to do this. And I know that there is concern about the amount of money that Trenton Waterworks is requesting and has gotten. I think it's also important to recognize that many of the projects that have been bonded for in the past, Trenton Waterworks has not gone through with for one reason or another, which means that money, they never got that money, right? So if you bond for something, it's like having a credit card. You have a line of credit, but if you never use it, you don't owe anything back, right? So, there have been projects that have come up before council to be bonded that have been approved and then never happened. So that money does not exist essentially, right? So I think it seems like Trenton Waterworks is asking for more money or has more money or is taking more money than perhaps it actually does in hand. But as it pertains to this specific issue, I do not think that we can wait to replace our lead lines and continue the momentum and trajectory of this program. And I think that the state has presented us with an opportunity here to, fund that program and allow us to have a lesser financial burden in terms of paying that back. And I think that's good for the taxpayers of this city. So I am imploring council to please move forward with bonding this additional $15 million for this program so that we can have lead-free drinking water in this city and continue implementing this program and not have to stop the momentum of what has already been started.
Mary Horn Trenton?
Yes, Ms. Horn.
Yes. Thank you, Council President. Just like to say, I'd like to reiterate what was said at last council meeting in reference to the lead line replacement. There are those of us, citizens, who have been in phase one, taxpayers, that have been in phase one that have not had our lead lines replaced as of yet, as of to date. And now we fast forward to phase three. Now, we're skipping two numbers over here, whereas phase one hasn't been completed as of yet. And so, having said that, is it state loan? Is it going to be a state loan, or is it going to be bonding for this project? Because there's two different things. And so we can't continue to bond out this city because taxpayers will be responsible for that. And as far as using, I think it's a scare tactic for someone to say, our drinking water, we need this, not to downgrade anyone else, but for our drinking water, we need to make sure that it's good and that it's safe. Right now, I drink it. We've had plenty of money. We've had millions of dollars to put into this project to ensure that we up to date have clean drinking water. So some of this, I believe, is just a scare tactic of people who don't really, maybe you don't understand that there's monies that have been millions of dollars that has been allocated for clean drinking water here in the city. And number two, the administration has committed to having an audit. I haven't seen anything about it. Are we going to have an audit to see how these monies are being spent or where it's being spent? Haven't heard anything as of today. I think the people in the city deserve more. And I would like for council, someone on council, to talk about whether state it's going to be a state loan or it's going to be a bonding where the responsibility is placed on the taxpayers yet again. And also, I'd like to hear about the audit. And thank you very much. That's it, Council President.
Thank you, Ms. Horn. You're muted, Mr. Conlon.
Thank you, Council President. Does anybody else wish to be recognized with regard to the public hearing for the bond ordinance 20-55? Please speak up if you are on the telephone and you will be recognized. Anyone else wish to be recognized for the public hearing on ordinance 20-55, the bond ordinance for $15 million for lead service line replacement? Council President, would you like the motion for closed public portion?
For the closing of public comment.
Yes, ma'am. I have a motion by Council President McBride to close public portion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. Public portion is closed. Council President, would you like to entertain any council members wish to be recognized for the public hearing for bond ordinance 20-55?
Yes, Council President?
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Vaughn.
Yes, I would just like to see whether, I would like to incorporate, the director, Mark Levenberg, in my comments. Am I permitted to do that?
Yes.
Council President or Clerk Collin?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Is Mark Levenberg on the line?
Yes, Councilwoman, good evening.
Yes, I had listened to our residents, Ms. Caitlin Fair, Ms. Mary Horn, and Ms. Sherry Garrett, and they have some, and I hope you listened as well, and they have mentioned a lot of the concerns and questions that we have talked about over the past year and more. And it seems like, we are on an endless loop here. I saw your report at the number of lead lines that you have completed, and the number is at a snail's pace, right? And I don't understand why it's so slow. And yes, we have some restrictions, but I think that you're here now and you're the director. It's on your watch. I don't know what you're doing with the legal department, but you need to get them over there to that local finance board and start negotiating for Trenton. And if these are some legal restrictions or regulatory restrictions that can be negotiated out of and around, and I talked to some of our attorneys now, and this can be done, and other municipalities have done it, and that's why they are able to move expeditiously. So I want to know, what are you doing to get Trenton negotiated better terms over at the local finance board?
Councilwoman, so you're asking what are we negotiating for better terms in reference to the local finance board?
As far as the restrictions on accessing homeowners' homes, and these are the things that coming in, doing one home, one resident, not being able to do the whole block, not being able to access homes because, the homeowner didn't give you permission or whatever have you. So these are some things that other municipalities have gotten their legal teams on board with and started negotiating.
Okay, Councilwoman, so I am certainly not the know-all, be-all of what's going on with other communities, and any input I could get from anybody in regards to getting access to public property without the homeowner's permission would be appreciated, and we could work in such a manner. But as far as I know,
I'm not saying
it's still public property, and we need permission to get on a person's property.
So where are our attorneys on this, right? I know there was a bill in the state legislature that was passed. Some of the state legislators in Newark passed it for their community. So if you have these bottlenecks and you're not able to move through this project expeditiously, and it's costing the city money, and you're not turning around the scope of work, and I don't want you to come here a year later and say, we still haven't met our targets. And then South State and Spinelli have taken the money and we can't claw it back. They got paid and they didn't do the work because they're going to say, because we had some restrictions.
Councilwoman, we
I'm
are on.
surprised that you're saying to me that you don't know about these restrictions.
No, we are on schedule, Councilwoman. We're getting 50 to 65 services in a week by two contractors working with two separate crews, spread out throughout the water system, and we are on target based on the schedule and the contracts that we have. Now, also, I must really point out that they get paid by the service in which they are done. They're not getting paid any money in advance of what's going on. They do a service, they get paid for it. And at the end of the month, they have how many services they've done, and that's how many services they get paid for. Whether the service is from the main to the curb or from the curb inside to the homeowners, or what they call a complete service.
Okay.
And they're totally on schedule with that.
Okay.
You know, if we had more contractors in here like we will in phase 2, where we'll have 3 contractors working at the same time, yes, the pace will increase, but yes, 50 to 65 services a week is right on schedule.
Okay, well, that's not what the DEP is saying.
I'm sorry.
My understanding is that, number one, now I spoke to an attorney. Now, my understanding is that DEP, that we haven't reconciled the number of lead lines that need to be replaced throughout the water system. DEP has a different number, and you have a different number. Is that not true?
That is correct. That is correct. We have what we know from our records of what the city of Trenton, over its 200-year history, has installed. We have very accurate records to that. We do not know what is on a homeowner side because the homeowner has had the opportunity over the last 200 years to change out their services, many times to copper. So it's not the need for a complete replacement. We do not know what the material is inside a resident's home until the resident reaches out to us, signs up for the program, and then we go in and do an inspection and make an assessment whether they have a galvanized pipe coming in to their house. Therefore, would require a complete replacement. We do have different segments in our contracts as that proceeds.
Now, okay, so you haven't done this type of community outreach to get out there and get into the homes and do the assessment? I thought that piece of work was done.
No, we're out there every day, and we're calling people up, and we're asking them to send us photographs of their services that come in, and I take this opportunity at these meetings, if anybody's listening, to call the hotline. We have a lead service hotline for people to call into, and so that's our outreach to get that. We've done community outreach. We've had meetings with the community.
I just want to make sure that we don't get penalized by the regulator, by DEP, because they have a different number, and hence their targets. They're measuring you.
I want to be careful about ongoing litigation, but we are in negotiation with that. And again, our records are completely accurate of what we have on our side. The question is what is on the homeowner side.
Yeah.
And we are finding that there's no lead line services or lead line galvanized pipe going into houses. We haven't found one to date, and we're collecting data to present that to the DEP so we can come up with a better number. But in the end, all these galvanized pipes, all right, that are connected to the main with what they call a lead gooseneck or that lead component, okay? It's not a question of, when it's going to break. I mean, it's not a question of if it's going to break, it's when it's going to break. And the issue is when we spend taxpayer money to repave a street and you go down a street and then 2 or 3 days later or 2 or 3 weeks later, you have a break because one of these galvanized water services is broken. Then we have to go in and tear up a brand new street. And I understand the frustration with everybody in council and everybody on the administration when that happens. So, it's not this work is going to have to be done, if not this year, next 5 years, 10 years. The water utility has to get that galvanized pipe with the lead component out of the street.
No, I just want to make sure that you're doing your assessments and you're out there reaching out to the community and getting these answers and filling in these gaps, right? So if there's a gap between what the regulator perceives that's out there that needs to be remediated and what the city has, then that's a serious gap that you have to close. All right, so let's just work on that and keep that on top of your list, that we need to close that gap between what the regulator has that needs to be remediated in the city of Trenton and across the water system here versus what you have. And the other thing that I just want to keep in mind is the cost and cost of labor. So the cost of contracting is always going to be more expensive. So what are you doing to try to get a lot of this work done in-house and getting Trentonians out there working on these jobs? Because we can't depend on outside contracting forever throughout the whole project. I would think that you ramp up with contracting, you ramp down and when are you going to turn over to in-house labor? It's cheaper.
And I certainly do appreciate that statement. And one of the things that gets overlooked is the amount of water services that our construction and maintenance team do every day. And I think last year they did approximately 900 services, which is quite a bit. And these are ones when you have a leak that's in the street that we respond to. We can't get a contractor like South Strait or Spinelli to come out and do that. We do that ourselves. And we're increasing our fleet of vehicles and the training of our men. We have apprenticeships programs going with that. And I would certainly love to turn the whole thing over and do it all ourselves, because I agree. It's a great bonus. And paying the contractors is exorbitant. And one of the reasons that it's so exorbitant is because when we do a contract of, over $40,000, that we have to pay prevailing wage. And prevailing wage is, I've never figured out where it's prevailing. I would hope it would be prevailing in Trenton someday for the men and women of Trenton Waterworks. But, they're forced to hire union employees. These are all union jobs. And for the most part, and I've had a long conversation with South State, is that they're hiring from the local union here in the city of Trenton. So, I mean, I can't force a vendor to, strictly...
Wait a minute now.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. You can do that because you are the director of Trenton Waterworks, so you can force them to do whatever they want them to do. Otherwise, we go to another contractor, right?
Well, I can't pay them less than prevailing wage.
Whoa, Mark. I'm just saying, excuse me. So I want to know what your local union are they hiring from in Trenton?
I would have to get back to you with a number on that. I'm not sure what union that is.
Yeah, I want to know that. And please, don't wait until the next council meeting. I want to know tomorrow what union they claim they are hiring from that's in Trenton. Because if it's not the ask, right?
Yeah, we may be able to get you that answer in a few minutes.
And again, and later in the conference on the call, I want the law department, Ms. Abdul Razak, to come in and tell us what success she has in working with them to make sure they're hiring, they're complying with EEO and affirmative action.
Yes,
okay?
that's understood. I have
working on that too.
All right, good evening, Madam President and Madam Vaughan.
We're going to keep this to the bond issue because that's what's on the floor.
Yes.
Now.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam.
All right, Council President, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Is there anyone else that want to speak to the bond issue in the council?
Yes, President McBride. This is Councilman Blakely.
Go right ahead, Councilman Blakely.
Thank you. So I want to speak in favor of this ordinance. I think it is very important to invest in the necessary infrastructure upgrades that will enable the Trenton Waterworks to continue to provide clean drinking water for the people who use it. One of the speakers mentioned that talking about lead was a scare tactic. Well, I'll just say for the record that lead is scary, and it's important to realize that lead has has an extremely negative impact on the people who drink it or who drink water that is contaminated with lead, and that we have a responsibility and an obligation as a body to do everything we can to ensure that we provide clean drinking water for the people who use the waterworks. And so I will be supporting this. I think this is necessary, and I'm very happy to do what I can to ensure that the people of Trenton and the other municipalities have access to clean drinking water, and that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that our infrastructure is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, is there any other council member? So I would like to just take this time to bring a couple points.
Councilman McBride?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to say that of the 15 million, like it was stated, 50% of it will be forgiven. So it'll be 7.5. Won't be paid by the taxpayers, be paid by the water rates. Also was brought up about the forensic audit. It's already, they started the forensic audit. I knew me and Mr. Santiago were in a meeting with the forensic audit, so it has started. Just to let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Harrison. I would like to bring up a couple points to this ordinance. The first point is the information. Listening to the public, one of the speakers stated that they spoke to Mr. Walker. The other speaker stated that she spoke to Christian Epstein. That's a concern to me, because if we're going to be giving the public any type of factual information, it should be in black and white. There should be one person speaking for the water department to the residents. Because when Michael Walker gave his pointers and his point of view and the things that he felt as though was going on in the water department was completely different than what Christian Epstein gave to the public, the resident that she spoke to. And that's a concern, because all of the residents should be getting the same information. It should not be coming from a bunch of different sources, because it should be in black and white. And when any resident speaks to anyone from the Trenton Water Department, they should be able to say, you could come down and pick up this information, or we can mail it to you, but it should not be five different opinions from five different people, what is taking place in the water department. And second, I wanted to talk about the bonds. To date, I believe we have issued $105 million in bonds, and this $15 million would bring it up to $120 million. And something that Mrs. Horn said that stood out was that she had been on the list for the last 5 or 6 years, and her house or her home, because she can't speak for anyone else, but her property has not even went through phase 1. So my question would be, if Mr. Lavingberg could put some information based on the Trenton residents, because we deal with our customer base throughout all of the municipalities, Ewing, Lawrence, Hopewell, and Hamilton. I would like to know how many Trentonians have had their lead lines replaced to date. If Mr. Lavingberg can put that into my mailbox or email me that information, I would appreciate that. And then the other thing is the bond. Let's talk about this infrastructure bank. So they said, if you do this now, the infrastructure bank will give you the benefit of only paying a percentage of the loan of the 15 million. You'll pay basically half, something to that effect. But I remember when the administration came to us for the first $16 million from the infrastructure bank and told us that that money was going to be forgiven, and then we voted for it based on the information that they had given us, to find that there was no funds in the infrastructure bank, and that we had to wait for the funding, and they couldn't tell us when the funding would even come. So my question to Mr. Lavingberg is this: do we have any type of information showing us that that money is in the infrastructure bank? because in order for them to guarantee us anything, they should have the money. And so the last time we voted, we found out they did not have the money. I would like to know if there's any way that you could get me that information, that money is in the infrastructure bank. And if it's not, when they expect to receive it from the federal government, or what all the other entities that they get their money from. I would just like to know if that money is there and if they will offset 7.5 million of those numbers. And the last and final thing I would like to say, Mr. Lavenberg spoke to Councilwoman Vaughn about the prevailing wages, and he stated that he wished he could offer prevailing wages. Mr. Lavenberg might not be able to offer prevailing wages, but he can definitely speak to the administration in reference to the contract, and he can advocate for his employees. That is what directors do. They advocate for their employees. So while you guys are in the negotiations with the union, you can, Mr. Lavenberg, advocate for your employees to get a raise and to get a contract. And it might not be prevailing wages, but it will be a raise that is greatly needed, and it will help the residents in the city of Trenton and the people that work for you. And Mr. Conlon, you can continue with the vote for this particular ordinance, if you will.
Yes, ma'am. I'll now call the roll for the passage and adoption of Ordinance 20-55, a bond ordinance providing for Phase 3 of the lead service line replacement program in the Trenton Water Works Service Area, binding in the city of Trenton and the county of Mercer, state of New Jersey, appropriating $15 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $15 million of bonds or notes to find the cost thereof. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Blakely votes yes. Ms. Caldwell-Wilson, your vote, ma'am.
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson votes yes. Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison votes yes. Mr. Michelle, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle votes yes. Mr. Rodriguez, your vote, sir.
My vote will be no vote.
Mr. Rodriguez votes no vote. Ms. Vaughn, your vote, ma'am.
My vote will be no vote.
Ms. Vaughn votes no vote. Mr. McBride, your vote, ma'am. Council President.
My vote will be no.
The bond ordinance fails. Council President, did you want me to proceed to the walk-on before we go to the resolutions, or did you want to go start the agenda? Chapter 2, Administration, Chapter A316, Rules of Procedure, in the appendix of the Code of the City of Trenton. Whereas the City of Trenton is organized pursuant to NJSA 40:69 Cap A-1 et sec, commonly known as the Faulkner Act, and specifically the Mayor Council Plan NJSA 40:69 Cap A-31 et sec, and whereas under the Mayor Council Plan, the mayor has certain powers and duties and the council has certain powers and duties, and whereas the powers and duties of the mayor and council sometimes overlap and sometimes conflict, and whereas the City Council of the City of Trenton has determined that it is in need of legal counsel separate and apart from the city attorney, who is the city's director of law as part of the mayor's administration and who is under the supervision, direction, and control of the mayor in accordance with NJSA 40 Cap A:69 Cap A-40 little c. And whereas the City Council is authorized by NJSA 40:69 Cap A-36 parenthetical little j to appoint employee officers and employees of the City Council. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Trenton, Section 1, Article 1, City Council and City Clerk, and Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of the City of Trenton is hereby amended by adding Section 2-3.1, Legislative Council, as follows, to read as follows. Section 2-3.1, Legislative Council, parenthetical small a, establishment. Position of Legislative Council is hereby established. Parenthetical small b, qualifications. The Legislative Council may be an individual or firm of attorneys licensed in the state of New Jersey. At least one member of the firm shall have at least 10 years of experience in New Jersey municipal law. Parenthetical small c, duties of the Legislative Council. Legislative counsel should be available to the council at all regular and special meetings. Legislative counsel should draw ordinances or resolutions for review by the city attorney for any member of the council when and as requested, and may give legal advice to the council or council members when requested on matters involving the powers of the council, its legislative function, and the council's relationship to the mayor and administration. All ordinances, resolutions, contracts, documents, and all other legal documents requiring approval of council should be reviewed by the legislative council as to legality and form on behalf of the council. Parenthetical small d, prior review. All ordinances, resolutions, and contract documents before presentation to the council by the mayor or the business administrator shall have been reduced to writing and shall have been approved as to form and legality by the legislative council. Parenthetical small h, responsibility. The legislative council shall be directly responsible to the council. Meaning the city council. Parenthetical small f, appointment. The legislative council should be appointed by the city council contract in accordance with NJSA 40:69 Cap A -36 parenthetical small j and NJSA 40 Cap A :11-5 parenthetical 1 parenthetical small a parenthetical Roman numeral 1. Section 2, Article 6, Department of Law and Chapter 2 Administration of the Code of the City of Trenton is hereby amended by amending Section 2-23 Powers and Duties to read as follows. Deletions are indicated by strike-throughs, which I will read out, and additions are indicated by lining, which I will also read out. Section 2-23, Powers and Duties. The city attorney shall be the legal advisor to the mayor, striking out the council, and all departments except as may be otherwise provided in the charter. She or he shall prosecute and defend actions and proceedings by and against the city in every department thereof. In furtherance of these general powers and without limitation thereto, he or she shall, A, advise the council as to the form and sufficiency of all ordinances and resolutions, with the addition of the verbiage presented to the council by the mayor or the business administrator prior to their passage. Small parenthetical paragraph B, there is no change. Small parenthetical C paragraph, there is no change. Small parenthetical D paragraph, there is no change. Small parenthetical E paragraph, there is no change. Small parenthetical F paragraph, there is no change. Small parenthetical G paragraph, there is no change. And small parenthetical H paragraph, there is no change. Section 3. The following rules in Section A316-2, Rules in Chapter A316, Rules of Procedure in the appendix to the Code of the City of Trenton are hereby amended to read as follows. Rule 3, Agenda. All reports, communications, ordinances, resolutions, claims, contract documents, or other matters to be submitted to the council by the administration at least 24 business hours prior to each council meeting shall be delivered to the clerk, whereupon the clerk shall immediately prepare a calendar of such matters together with such additional matters that she or he may have to present in conformity with the described order of business as hereinafter provided, and shall furnish a copy to each member of the council. When required, she or he shall furnish to the mayor, the business administrator. We strike out the word "and" the city attorney, and we add the verbiage, the and legislative council. A copy of the same prior to the council meeting and as far in advance of the meeting as time for preparation will begin. All administration matters shall be presented to the council by the mayor, business administrator, or a designee of either of them, provided that nothing herein shall limit the charter power of the council to require reports or to investigate. All ordinances or resolutions presented by members of council shall be presented to the council president for review at least 24 hours prior to any agenda review meeting before the same are placed upon the docket. Rule 5, City Attorney. The city attorney or other such members of his or her office as he or she may designate shall be available to the council at all regular and special meetings. We are adding the verbiage, legislative council shall attend such meetings as well. The city attorney, and we strike out the words he or she, and leave in the city attorney or his or her designee shall draw ordinances or resolutions for any member of council when and as requested, and adding the verbiage, unless the member requested an ordinance or resolution be drawn by legislative council, in which case he or she shall do so. Rule 19, ordinances, resolutions, motions, and contract documents. Parenthetical paragraph B. Prior approval by administrative heads of departments, all ordinances, resolutions, and contract documents before presentation to the council by the mayor or the business administrator shall be reduced to writing and shall have been approved as to form and legality by the city attorney or his designee. Prior to presentation, all documents shall have first been referred to the head of the department under whose jurisdiction the administration and subject matter of the ordinance, resolution, or contract document would devolve. Any statement of fact or representation submitted in support of any such document, resolution, or ordinance shall be signed by the mayor, business administrator, or a designee of either of them. And added to this paragraph, we are adding the verbiage where ordinances, resolutions, and contract documents have been prepared by legislative council, he, she shall approve them as to form and legality, or he, she may refer them to the city attorney for such purpose. Section 4. All ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such inconsistency. Section 5. If any portion of this ordinance shall be determined to be invalid, such determination shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the said ordinance. Section 6. This ordinance shall take effect upon final passage and publication in accordance with law. This ordinance will be available to anybody, any member of the public. If you would like a copy of the ordinance, please email the clerk's office at clerk@trentonnj.org. You can also stop by my office for a copy of the ordinance. I will have a copy prepared for the public and ready for distribution. Council President, do I have an introduction for ordinance 20-60?
I have a question.
Council President.
I have a motion by Council President McBride to introduce ordinance 20-60.
Second.
I have a second by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Council President, would you wish to open the floor?
They're ready.
Councilman who?
Mr. Blakely and Mr. Harrison would like to be recognized, Council President.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions.
Excuse me, Councilman Blakely. I had yielded the floor to Councilman Harrison.
Okay, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
First question, who walked this on? Right? Because I see no name on it. I see no city attorney signature. Mr. Williams, have you seen this? Have you signed off on this?
Can I be recognized, Council President? Rashawn Williams, Assistant City Attorney.
You can answer the question yes or no. Have you seen it?
I have not. I've seen it. I have not signed off on it. I have not signed off on that.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison, what was your other question?
It says it's being walked on. Who walked this on? And this verbiage, who did the verbiage? Who wrote it?
I just walked it on, Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, because under the Faulkner Act, the council does not really need a city attorney. So this is, to me personally, it's more wasting of money. So I'm not sure why we're doing this again, wasting more money. That money that we talk about, the city doesn't have, but we're going to do it again and try to waste more money.
I have a few questions.
Yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Blakely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison. So I have a question to Mr. Williams, the law director, the acting law director. Can you give me your legal opinion of the legality of this ordinance?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman.
Just a point of information. Mr. Wesley Bridges is the acting law director. Mr. Williams is an acting city attorney. He's an assistant city attorney. Just for clarification, sir. My apologies.
Okay, thank you. I would like the opinion of the law department of this ordinance. I'd like to know why you did not sign off on it.
Yeah,
well, first I wanted to ask, did you have the ability to? Were you given an opportunity to sign off on this ordinance? And if you were not, why did you not sign off on it?
No, I certainly had the opportunity to sign off on it. I did not sign off on this ordinance because it does not comply with the Faulkner Act. I just have to let it be known to the city council that you cannot use this ordinance to change state law or the Faulkner Act. If this ordinance is challenged, it's unlikely to get upheld by the court. Obviously, it's going to be added to the current legislation or the current litigation that's going on. But more importantly, and it's all important, but I really, really need to caution the council, and I think Councilman Harrison already spoke about this, is that if Judge Jacobson has already ruled on this issue and already given her decision on this issue regarding its own attorney, the council really needs to be careful regarding sanctions, attorney fees, and other mechanisms that the court may use against this council for blatantly going against any of her orders that she's already ruled on. So I don't know whether that answers all of your questions.
Could you explain further what particular orders that she gave that this ordinance would be contrary to?
For what I understand, there was a number of case management conferences and conferences on the record in which the Judge Jacobson in the current litigation has already stated that this council is not entitled to its own attorney. The assistant city attorney, the law department is this council's counsel. And, we've ordered the transcript just to make sure that, I'm not, I need to read it for myself. But when I understand from several people that Judge Jacobson has already ruled on this issue. And if she's already ruled on this issue and the council is just ignoring her order, then the court may be and likely be compelled to issue sanctions and or attorney fees and or any other things against this council that, to make this council comply with the order. I'm sure the court is not going to want to relitigate issues that it's already decided on.
So all of the powers outlined to the legislative council in this ordinance, who currently has those powers? Like, are those aspects as written in the presented ordinance, are those things not being done right now? Do we have someone currently doing it? I just wanted to be clear about who would this legislative council, this prospective legislative council, who would it be replacing or supplanting?
Well, it's really redundant. I mean, we have several assistant city attorneys who's assigned to the city council, and I'm acting city attorney right now, but the incoming city attorney has already reached out to the city council, and he's already assigned people to the city council. I've assigned assistant city attorneys to work with the city council. And so anything it's in this legislation is currently already being done, quite frankly. So it's really not necessary.
Okay, let me ask another question. I am concerned that, let me ask another question. What do you think is a possible outcome for that level of redundancy? So like, say if you have this legislative council presenting an opinion and you have the law department presenting an opinion, whose opinion is supreme? Like, whose opinion would actually matter as the opinion of the city?
I mean, according to, the council can take whatever opinion they want. According to the Faulkner Act, the law department and the city attorney is the lawyer to the council. Not, this flies in the face so much in the Faulkner Act, and it's so improper that I don't know what part of this could be considered proper. This just isn't legal.
Okay, and so just to be clear, this is redundant, this is illegal, and I want to talk about the other aspects. Would the legislative council, as outlined in this ordinance, would they be a city employee, or would they be I guess I could ask that to the person who authored this ordinance. Would this be someone that we would have a contract for, or would it be a city employee, Council President McBride?
It would be whomever the council chose, which more than likely would be a contract with an attorney to represent.
Okay, so just to be clear, I'm really concerned about that because my colleagues have already spoken on the record about how they are concerned about the use of contracts and the expense of contract attorneys on the city's behalf. I think we would be creating a runaway line item that would serve to empower certain litigious elements of city council, and I am forcefully against this. I think it is not prudent for all of the reasons that Mr. Williams outlined. And I believe that, as Mr. Williams outlined, that this is illegal. I have a question, President McBride. Who wrote this? Did Mr. Conlon write this ordinance?
He did not.
Okay, just asking. I'm just curious. I wanted to know what.
And Councilman, I just want to add one more thing in there, just based on your and I like to thank Council President as well for her clarification. Just saying that this would be a contract attorney. The Supreme Court has already dealt with this issue, and the case is called James v. the Municipal City Council. It was a case out of Newark. And the Supreme Court has already dealt with this issue very clearly, that the council cannot contract to get their own attorney. This is, it's clearly against the Faulkner Act. It's that duty is in the executive session, is up to the executive branch. I mean, this is, and I can forward that case to City Council, Council President, if she'd like to see it as well.
Okay. So I think I'm very, very clear that this proposed ordinance is illegal. It's a waste of money, because if we have to litigate this, it's going to cost even more money. And I'm just deeply concerned about this use of our time, our money. And I just think that this is a really, really poor decision. We already have a attorney. We already have legislative counsel. They're called the Department of Law. They serve as the lawyers for both the city council and the mayor's office. And for those reasons, I'm not going to vote for this redundant, ill-advised, illegal ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Blakely. Mr. Collins, you move forward to the vote.
Council President?
Yes, go right ahead.
It's Robin Vaughn. I just want to ask Mr. Williams a question. He mentioned, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Councilwoman.
So you mentioned that the Faulkner Act, there is a clause, a statute in the Faulkner Act that speaks to the internal law department of the city, representing the council, the heads of departments, and the mayor. But also there is a statute in the Faulkner Act, which you agree, that also talks about council representation when there's a conflict, where the law department is conflicted out. Am I right? Whereby you can't represent the council and you can't represent the mayor.
I'm not familiar with that.
Because you represent all three entities. So you can't, there are times where you cannot represent both entities.
I agree, Councilwoman. As an attorney, if there's a conflict, I cannot represent any clients when there's a conflict. You are correct. Mm-hmm. But I think that the case law and the Faulkner Act, and I can provide it to you as well. Standard case law provides that the law department will assign counsel out when there is such conflict. You can't go out and get your own counsel to get rid of the conflict.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes, I just want to say that during my tenure on council, I have experienced several times where the law department was adversarial to the council and did not want to provide the representation. So I think it's prudent, and I think that the city governing body of any municipality deserves representation. And when there is a hostile a law department that wants to put the thumb on the scale for the mayor and bias to one side and does not provide unbiased legal advice to one entity that they are statutorily supposed to represent, then we have to look to other mechanisms to assure that the council that represents the residents and taxpayers are well represented and have the legal advice at the same level as the mayor. And for that, I will be supporting this. And if there is some legal challenge, then challenge it. But to say that is illegal and try to make it seem like there's some criminal gesture here is just unheard of and unacceptable. What we need to do is just have a legitimate debate about it. And if there are some concerns, then we can seek opinions. And that's what Mr. Rashawn, you should walk away with. So we're going on to vote on this. And if you have some serious issues, you said you read it, then go out and engage your legal colleagues and all the 25 law firms that we got retained paying millions of dollars for, get some opinions and come back legitimately with some arguments against. But to sit here and say that and extract one case and say that case, Newark City Council versus Sharp James, and you use that, I believe the mayor's attorney then exhausted it and he has gotten shot down. And to say that Mary Jacobs sided with him on every issue is just downright wrong and it's a lie. She dismissed most of his complaints. So I just think that to move the city forward and ensure that all entities of the city, the council, residents and taxpayers, the mayor, and the heads of departments has proper representation, this is something that we should all consider. And to shoot it down just so that you guys can continue to perform the way you've been performing is a disgrace. And that's all I got to say about that. And I will be supporting this. And thank you very much, Council President.
Council President?
Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Rodriguez.
I would like to ask Mr. Williams to provide me a copy of that brief that a decision made by Judge Jacobson saying that we are not authorized to have an attorney. And I'd like to have it as soon as possible.
Yes, Councilman, I've ordered it, and when I get a copy of it, I'll provide it to you as well.
Email it to me, to everybody in council.
Thank you. Mr.
Council
Conlon,
President.
if you can continue with the
Council
vote.
Yes, ma'am. I will now continue to the vote for introduction. Ordinance 20-16, ordinance establishing the position of legislative council and amending Article 1, City Council and City Clerk, and Article 6, Department of Law, and Chapter 2, Administration, and Chapter 8316, Rules of Procedure in the appendix of the Code of the City of Trenton. I will now call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
No.
Blakely votes no. Ms. Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson votes yes. Mr. Harrison.
No.
Mr. Harrison votes no. Councilmember Michelle.
Abstain.
Councilmember Michelle abstains. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez votes yes. Councilmember Vaughn.
Yes.
Councilmember Vaughn votes yes. Council President McBride.
Yes.
Council President McBride votes yes. The ordinance is introduced by a vote of 4-2 with one abstention. Council President, shall we now proceed to public comment on new business?
Mr. Conlon,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna ask the vice chair to meeting. Councilwoman Ferguson.
Yes.
Can you come in? I would like to say one thing before I excuse myself, that the system is the audio is of very poor quality here this evening. I can't hardly hear any the speakers. So I just wanted you to know that, Mr. Conlon, before I excuse myself.
And Council President, I just want to let you know I ordered a bunch of equipment. We are waiting on the delivery of the equipment. So as soon as it arrives, I will distribute it to everyone.
All right.
And I apologize for that.
Colleagues, please excuse me for the rest of the evening.
Yes, ma'am. I'll note you as out at 6:50 p.m. and that Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson has the chair.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Go ahead, Mr.
It relates to the items that are on the agenda. So you can only speak to the items that are on the agenda tonight as new business. Council Vice President, we have a request from Sonny McRae Richards to speak.
Yes. Go ahead, Miss Richards. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Sonny McRae Richards, City of Trenton. Not to be redundant, because Mr. Williams and Councilman Blakely basically covered all of the grounds for Ordinance 2060. But I would like to say, Council gets on here and they want to complain about all the mayors spending money in lawsuits and having to defend lawsuits.
On the ordinance. You can't.
And I am on the ordinance because that is what the question and the statements was about. The ordinance, again, is going to cost taxpayers even more money as you continue to have taxpayers have to pay for all of this here legal defense for the nonsense that you guys continue to engage in, such as this ordinance 2060. Again, everyone wants to debate. The only opinion is that correct opinion is a legal correct opinion. Everybody can have an opinion, but everybody's opinion is not right. The only opinion that holds is the legal opinion. And I'm sure most of the council wants to think that they are attorneys, but they must have slept at a Holiday Inn because they're not attorneys.
Please do
And
not
their
insult the council,
opinion
ma'am.
is not.
Thank you.
And you
McRae, Ms. McRae, please.
Please don't interrupt her. I'm listening to her.
Thank you.
And you do not have a legal opinion on any matters that is put before the public on this here docket. None of you have a legal opinion other than those with a legal degree. And again, like I said, you're going to cost the taxpayers even more money to have to get attorneys to defend this nonsense with this. I digress.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be recognized by the council for new business items only? Do I have a motion to close the public portion on new business items?
So move.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson to close. Do I have a second?
Okay, I had my hand up and you didn't recognize it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not. Ms. Garrett, is that you, ma'am? I did not
Yes.
see your hand. My apologies.
Yes,
Council
Ms.
Vice
Garrett, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to go over a couple of things, resolution 2733. I'm not really sure. This was on the agenda. This was on the agenda last a week ago in regards to Middlesex Educational Service Commission. Is that correct? Is that Middlesex, or that it should be actually Mercer County? Because I'm just not sure. I know this is in dealing with housing, from my understanding. So if this is Middlesex Educational Service Commission, I'm not really sure the relationship, and I think that needs to be explained a little bit clearer, because we are paying money for whatever this shared service is. And when you talk about county, this is county. This is a county should be a county shared service where money should be shared with the county. Again, I don't know what happened for 2739. Come here. I don't know what happened to shared resolution 2739 in regards to the sale of the homes and why there's a balance owed, because again, that was also discussed last council meeting in regards to the cost for these houses were ridiculous. So I guess people are not buying them. And again, that's a problem. That process needs to be, the glitches or whatever it is, how you select houses to be put up for sale, and to be able to, and if there's a clause in it where residents have to live in these houses for 5 years, I don't understand why the investors are bidding on these houses, which raise the cost of these properties. And now we're stuck. They're going to be sitting there into the next housing season. Resolution 2741, I was going to see the Trenton flyers of a grant award from Mercer County for aging. So I'm assuming the money for the repair.
Just point of order, ma'am, that actually, those 741 and 742 have been pulled. That was going to be announced prior to us going into the docket. So, Ms. Garrett, those are not open for discussion. 741 and 742 have been requested to be pulled by the administration. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. And again, for 2747, resolution authorizing contract extension to Majestic Oil Company out of Fairfax and Cherry Hill. I understand there's for diesel fuel. my question is there oil company that provides diesel fuel in Mercer County or in Mercer County? And if there is, why aren't we contracting with them? Let's see, 2751, same issue for sewer repair. Again, we're paying money out to contracts for entities that are not even in the county. And I'm sure a lot of these services that we're contracting for, we can contract in Mercer County. And that is about it, except back to piggyback off of that, based on what this the young lady, the constituent who made a point. I think that's why council needs an attorney, because if there is conflicting, legal information that cannot be agreed upon in regards to the attorneys who are employed with the city, then the council needs representation with attorneys who have experience in municipal law. So here we go again. The young lady did include the council's point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. Is there anyone else?
What a fucking idiot.
Excuse me, sir?
Mr. Blakely, same to you.
Does anybody else wish to be recognized for public portion? I have a motion to close public portion on the floor by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Anybody else wish, before we second that, does anybody else wish to be recognized? Last call.
Motion to
Okay, do I
close?
have a
Hi.
second?
Manuel Hernandez from Latino Merchants. How are you?
Yes, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes. How are you doing?
Yes, sir. Council
Yes,
Vice President,
Mr.
would you like
Eric.
to recognize Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, we just, on
Yes,
behalf
Mr.
of all
Eric.
our members, we just want to say thank you for the recognition for the hardworking people of Trenton. And thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Santiago Rodriguez, for all you do throughout the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, sir. Anyone else? Second call? Council Vice President, you have a motion on the floor to close public portion. Do I have a second to that motion from a council member?
Second.
I have a second by Council Member Rodriguez to close public portion with regard to new items only. All in favor?
Aye.
Need one more.
You make,
Any opposed? So ordered. Public portion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
is
Just
it on the
for,
docket?
yes, it is about a question on the docket. Yes. So,
Mr. Blake?
yes, do I have the floor?
Councilman Blakely, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'd like to ask the law department about the Middlesex Educational Commission. From my understanding, this is just how the state procures information, served, or how the city enters into to get better pricing for particular services and goods. And so we had a speaker mention some, I don't know what she was talking about, but she was saying somehow that it was improper or, illegal or whatever she was intimating about it. But I just want to be clear about why you guys actually go through the Middlesex Educational Commission to procure services and goods. And I would just like someone from the administration to clarify that for us.
Point of order, Council Vice President. This would be most appropriate when we actually discuss that resolution here in a couple minutes. Unless you would like to take it out of order. Mr. Blakely.
Mr. Blakely, we'll have Mr. Cruz speak on that when we get to it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am. We will now proceed to the resolutions, the introduction of the resolutions for this evening. First, we have resolutions 20-728, a resolution granting renewal of an alcohol beverage plenary retail consumption license number 1111-33-200-008 for Orlina Rodriguez for the 2021 licensing period. This is a pocket license. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Blakely. Madam, would you like me to call the roll?
Please do.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Next, we move to Resolution 20-729, resolution granting renewal. That resolution passes, by the way. Next, we move to Resolution 20-729, a resolution granting renewal of alcohol beverage plenary retail consumption license number 1111-36-299-001, Welcome Hotel Group LLC for the 2021 licensing period. Do I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second. I have a second by Councilmember Vaughn. Council Vice President, would you like me to move to the roll?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Harris, I'm sorry, ma'am. I should have called you last. My apologies for calling you out of order. Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
And Council President McBride is absent, so ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-730, resolution granting renewal of alcohol beverage plenary retail consumption license number 1111-33-028-010, Deepak Viswanath LLC for the 2021 licensing period. And this is this is for the 2021 license period. My apologies. Do I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
I have a second by Council Member Vaughn. Council Vice President, would you like me to move to the roll?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. Yes. Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-731, a resolution authorizing emergency appropriations to the state fiscal year 2021 temporary budget to the City of Trenton Current Fund.
So moved.
Second.
I have an introduction by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson, a second by Mr. Blakely. The floor is open.
Yes. Council
Yeah,
Vice President.
Councilwoman.
Yes.
Yes.
Is Mr. Cruz available? Because what I want to know is where are we with the budget, and is the council, is the mayor and or the administration going to be introducing the budget to the council shortly, because we are way overdue, and the council vice president can probably speak on it better than I. But we got a letter from DCA this week saying that we only have until January 15th to produce a complete budget for the city of Trenton. Otherwise, if we don't, we're going to be fined or penalized every day that we do not complete it. Now, can you give us a status on the budget and why it hasn't been introduced to the council, and why is the mayor behind?
Mr. Cruz?
Hi, yes, Madam President, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, we were served with a letter from the Department of Community Affairs for not introducing our budget as of yet, as we have been informing you throughout the year. We were waiting on DCA to give us final approval as to the amount of money that we were going to be receiving in transitional aid. As you all know, the state actually passed their budget back in the beginning of October. We were waiting to hear from the state to see if the city was going to be awarded additional capital city aid, which, as you are all aware, we received $10 million last year. This year, we were hoping to receive additional funding into the capital cities program. However, that was not the case. Once we got word that we were not receiving additional capital city, we then proceeded to submit a letter to the Department of Community Affairs requesting that we are allowed to submit an application for transitional aid. We were finally given the green light, and recently we submitted a request As you may be aware by now, when the state passed their budget, our capital city A was actually tagged with transitional, with DCA supervision, similar to the TA funding that we received. So now we are stuck with having a state monitor to also monitor our city for as long as we receive capital city funding. With that, we had no choice but to proceed and submit the request to DCA to allow us to apply for the funding. We have applied for $8.25 million. And we were waiting to hear back from them as to whether they were going to give us the $8.25 million. As of today, we have yet to receive it. However, they sent us a letter pretty much to put pressure on us to introduce the budget as is, and so we are going to use the money that we have applied, the amount we have applied, the 8.25. We are going to plug it into the introduced budget that we will be submitting to council in the next, hopefully by the next council meeting, which is on January 7th. If not, I have already spoken with Mr. Conlon, our city clerk, and I have indicated that perhaps if we cannot meet the January 7th, we can have a meeting around the January 10th or the 11th. Prior to the deadline, which is on January 15th.
Mr. Cruz, Councilwoman, can I just ask Mr. Cruz a question?
Yes.
So, Mr. Cruz, what I took from the letter from DCA was that we were actually to use what we received in our budget. We can use what we received in the prior budget until such times as we know how much money we're going to get. So why are we using an amount that we don't even know if we're going to get it?
But we actually received a total amount which included I think it was $3.5 million for the police center that we were doing through the state police. That was also money that we also received, even though it was not directly cash. It's also funding that aid that we received. So when our state legislators, our assembly and our state senator met with, I believe it was with the treasurer's office, they made a commitment to them that the city would receive the same amount of funding that we received last year. So with that in mind, we are going with the $8.5 million that we received in total, regardless whether if it was cash or it was money that is being put directly to that center.
Okay. So we will have our budget books in advance.
Yes, we're going to do it, but don't forget, this is actually just the introduction. So there really is no, we will be submitting books as we always do. But this is just the introduction, so yes.
No, I understand it's just introduction, but we normally get the books ahead of time so we can at least, if we have any questions at the introduction.
Sure. Not a problem.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes, I have major concerns about the terms that DCA is setting forward for the city of Trenton as relates to transitional aid and as it relates to the $10 million capital city program that's by statute. And it seems to me they're trying to commingle those two programs, which I don't think is possible. So I don't know what the administration is doing, but I would expect, this is a big example of where I believe that the law department need to intervene and represent this city. Look at that contract and scrub it and negotiate before this council or the administration settle with the state on anything. And I don't understand why the legal department continues to sit idle like a potted plant when it comes to agreements that impact the city. on this level. Now, why has the law department, Mr. Williams, have the law department had a look at this agreement as to what the terms are with this transitional aid packet that the state is has introduced to the city? Have the legal department reviewed it and expressed their opinion?
Councilwoman, I'll answer that question.
I'm not asking you, Mr. Cruz. I'm asking Mr. Williams.
So the answer is going to be no, because there is no contract as of yet. The contract.
Okay. Well, I don't understand why the law department is not even involved.
The law department cannot be involved with a situation where we have not been issued a contract.
Well, you just mentioned that the contract. You guys didn't talk. You just mentioned the talks that you've been having.
Conversations, yes, but nothing in writing from them as to what the terms of the transitional aid or the capital city aid agreement will be. We have not seen those terms yet.
Well, again, the capital city aid should not even be part of the conversation because that's by statute. And that should not be merged with any transitional aid at all, period. And I don't understand why our attorneys, and I don't even understand why the state attorneys are even putting that forward to our municipality. And it just incenses me that this is what they do to Trenton. And we have nobody at the table pushing back and saying it's unacceptable. And this is where our law department is failing to represent the entities that they are obligated to represent. You're supposed to look after for the interests of Trenton. And we got an entity that's proposing a preposterous contract or terms, and no one is pushing back. And they never push back. For 10 years since the MOU has been installed, no one even bothered to read that crappy document that doesn't even have an end date on it. So what kind of law department do we have where we accept an agreement by any entity, state or otherwise, where there's no end date? So I want, Mr. Cruz, please, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the law department. Now, Mr. Williams, can you please speak to that and please, educate me on what the role the law department is playing in negotiations here with the state for our transitional aid or aid, period, state aid. The state is obligated to fund all its municipalities based on the state constitution. And when are they going to treat Trenton fairly? When are we going to get our fair share? So I want to know what the law department is doing.
Mr. Williams, could you respond, please?
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. I just refer back to what Mr. Cruz has stated. The law department cannot review a contract that doesn't exist. So if Mr. Cruz and the administration is doing negotiations with the state, the law department will gladly review the end product as it always has been. But the law department is currently not a part of those negotiations, and I think it's in good hands with Mr. Cruz.
So have your law department been in the past?
Councilwoman, I think he answered your question.
Well, if he represents the council and we're a municipal corporation, then they should be involved, council president, council vice president, right?
Yeah,
so
they haven't negotiated a contract yet to review.
Well, they've been in talks, and I don't understand why the law department has not been involved in those talks, because the mayor can't negotiate.
I can answer that for you, Councilwoman. Based on my tenure here in 4 years, the law department has not. They review the end product at the end. They has not been a part of the negotiation. They review the contract at the end and give opinions based on, the end product. But they have not been, I have not seen anyone negotiate. The administration usually does that, and the law department reviews the contract at the end.
Well, and I think that has to change, and it's unacceptable that our municipality gets no representation, that we get presented crappy contracts from the state, like the MOU, a crappy contract like the ACO, and we have no legal representation in those matters. And that's your job. I'm sorry, that's your job. Thank you, Council Vice President.
I have something I'd like to say.
Mr. Cruz, Mr. Cruz, let me just ask you a quick question. Is there a problem? Why don't we have the city attorneys part of the negotiations?
Councilwoman, so as soon as we are permitted to review the contract, everybody will be hands on deck. But as of this time, nothing has been given to us. My assumption currently is that the MOU that will be signed with DCA, because that is exactly what the state's budget reflects when they adopted it. It says that we will be entering, should we choose to collect the $10 million, we have to enter into an agreement with DCA, and they are to have a monitor. That is actually cooked in the state's budget. Okay?
Mr. Cruz.
Whether you agree with me or not, I mean, feel free.
I have a question.
No, it's Councilwoman Vaughn making faces.
No.
And so.
I can make a face.
No, stop.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
So for one thing, as soon as we can, if we are allowed to go and be and have this contract reviewed, we will take a look at it. We will have the law department engaged. But as of this time, even the application for the $8.25 million for transitional aid is in jeopardy because the council president has failed to sign the application.
Mr. Cruz.
I'm sorry.
Please. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
All the councilwoman asked, and I asked it too, is because they want to include our capital city aid to be under supervision of a monitor. I think it behooves us to have legal representation to try and renegotiate that. That's what we're asking you to do.
Yes, Madam Vice President, and yes, I do agree, and I mentioned that, yes, the law department will be sitting at the table when the opportunity arises, but to say that there hasn't been any negotiations in the past is actually false. Otherwise, the city never would have been able to remove the water department from being monitored by the state. And as you are aware, this last year, the water department came off of that. So we have had conversations with the state when it comes to transitional aid, and we have been at the table, and we do try to negotiate.
Okay. Well, we're not going to beat a dead horse, but you know how we feel about this.
Marge.
Thank you.
This is
Mr. Blake. Well, let me see if Councilman Vaughn, are you through?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman.
Thank you. So I just want to say on the record that the fact that the state and DCA is attempting to put conditions on capital city aid, I think that is absolutely outrageous. The fact of the matter is capital city aid is not a gift. It is not extra. It is based on our status as the capital city of New Jersey and the obligation and the loss of revenue that we have because of our status as the state capital. I think that to continue, I think that basically we will have capital city aid as long as we're the state capital. And to put that as a condition of receiving, to say that we have to have a state monitor as long as we're the state capital is absolutely outrageous. And I'm not going to be voting for anything that supports that. I can understand having monies tied to transitional aid because that's considered above and over and it's considered extra money. But capital city aid is something that the state should be giving us because it's the right thing to do because of our status. And I just am shocked that this is a possibility. Democracy in Trenton should mean the same thing as democracy in Princeton, Short Hills, Hopewell, everywhere in this state. And the fact of the matter is we are being punished for our status as the state capital and the negative impact that has on the our budget and our fiscal situation. I think that this state should treat the city of Trenton much better than it is. They have taken land over these years to build state buildings. I can remember people telling me that there were property tax paying homes on the area where the Justice Complex is and the Department of Labor is, and the state of New Jersey took that land, and they're not giving us a favor with Capital City 8. They are repaying us for taking that property revenue generating to the city of Trenton. And so I'm outraged. I'm appalled. Democracy should mean something right now. We have to contend with another layer of government that that few other cities have had to contend with. I should not have to talk to a faceless bureaucrat in DCA to get approval to do something, particularly when it comes to our status as the state capital. And so I just think that this is absolutely outrageous. I'm not going to be supporting this. I'm going to be fighting this because I think that this is just a bridge too far. Governor Murphy was supported by Trentonians to the tune of 90%. We supported this administration 90%. And to put those kind of this is so bad. Chris Christie didn't even do this.
That's right.
Chris Christie didn't even put conditions on transitional aid. So I just think, I'm appalled. I think that we need to have a conversation about this as a city because DCA, I can understand them being here, but if we're able to get our fiscal situation to a place where we don't need transitional aid, then we should not have the shackles of DCA supervision. And it's just, I'm just sick of people thinking that they can do anything to this city. The people of Trenton voted for us as their municipal council and as their municipal government. DCA, some faceless bureaucrat, I shouldn't have to go to Tina Vingali to get permission in perpetuity to make decisions that the people of Trenton elected me to do. So I just don't understand, why are we even here if DCA is going to have control forever? I'm hoping to get this government to a place so that we no longer need transitional aid. But now they're shifting the blame. Now they're saying we're going to have DCA supervision forever. That's just outrageous. This is just, I can't believe it. That is something that is just beyond the pale, and I'm not supporting it. And I just think that democracy in Trenton should mean the same democracy should mean the same in Trenton as it means in Hamilton, Hopewell, Short Hills. And right now, we're not going to have a true democratic government for a long time if we're able to get that stipulation in, because the state will never leave Trenton, because we'll always have Capital City aid because of our state capital. And that's all I have to say. I'm outraged. And this administration, they have to fight for this. They cannot allow this to go on, because what's the use of being in office if you have to check with some faceless bureaucrat in DCA before we want to do something? It's outrageous, and I'm just appalled. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, and I thank you for your comments, because I think for once that maybe 7 members of this council absolutely in agreement. And that's why I feel that we need to have an attorney in there saying this can't happen and show them the legalities. So are there any other comments on this? Because we have to move on. Mr. Conlon, we have a motion on the floor.
I have a motion from Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson, a second by Mr. Blakely, to approve Resolution 2731, a resolution authorizing emergency appropriations, the state fiscal year 2021 temporary budget of the City of Trenton current fund. Would you like me to call the roll, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Mr. Blakely. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
I'm sorry. I was on mute. I have a question before I vote. I just have a question about the implications if we say no. Are we agreeing to the terms of the new?
No. This is just for the temporary budget.
Okay. Yes.
Ms. Blakely votes yes. Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle. Mr. Michelle, sir.
He's on mute. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. 2731 passes. Next, we have Resolution 20-732, a resolution authorizing the settlement of a workers' compensation claim in the matter of Juan Iuzzi, versus City of Trenton, claim petition number 2014-11628 and the 2015-6937 in a claim amount of $26,841.24, including attorney's fees and costs. Do I have an introduction?
So moved.
I have an introduction by Council Member Vaughn. I have a second by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Any questions or comments? Madam, would you like me to proceed to the vote?
Yes, please.
Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison, sir.
I said yes.
Sorry, sir, you were muted. I did not hear you. Thank you. Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Ms. Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-733, a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to CDW for the purchase of hardware, laptops, and peripherals for the Office of the City Clerk to be able to work remotely due to COVID-19 through Middlesex Educational Services Commission of the New Jersey Educational Services Commission Contract 18/19-03 in an amount not to exceed $26,252.04. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I have
Well,
Second.
we need a
This
second
is,
before we
right.
ask questions.
Yes, sir. I am
Second.
aware of your comments, sir. I have a second by Ms. Vaughn, and Mr. Blakely
Mr.
did have
Blakely.
some questions and comments with regard to this contract.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear. We had a person, a constituent mention some kind of nefarious plot as it relates to the Middlesex Educational Services Commission. And can we have someone from the administration actually explain how this is normal, how this actually allows the city to get the best prices for services as well as goods?
Mr. Cruz,
Hi, yes, Madam Vice President, I'm ready to answer if I may.
go ahead.
All right, thank you. So, Councilman, normally the city goes and does their own procurement. For when it comes to IT, any type of technology, the state puts out a very extensive contract. And so other municipalities, they do co-ops. And so this is one of the, I was misspeaking. This is actually a Middlesex Educational Services. It's actually a co-op that has been created, and then anybody that belongs to that co-op can actually use we can buy into using those contracts, and it makes it easier. We use it all the time. All of the procurement process in accordance to the local public contract law has been followed by the co-op, and then all we do is just utilize it. Makes it a lot easier rather than putting our own bid, having our set of specs, and then wait months before we can acquire the equipment. This provides us the opportunity and ability to buy it promptly as soon as the resolution is adopted by council.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
You move on with the vote, Mr. Connell.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. 20-733 is adopted. Next, we have Resolution 20-734, a resolution awarding contract through a fair and open process in accordance with NJSA 19:44, Cap A 20.4, et sec. to Institute for Forensic Psychology for psychologist screening provider for the Department of Police in an amount not to exceed $45,500 through RFP 2020-27. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion by Council Chairman Caldwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Does any member wish to be heard by the chairman?
You can move the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-687, A resolution certifying the City Council of the City of Trenton reviewed the best practices inventory questionnaire for the city's fiscal year 20-21. This had been tabled from a prior meeting, as you may recall.
So moved.
I have a motion by
Second.
Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. I have a second by Mr. Harrison. Any questions? The floor is open.
You can move it, Mr. Connor.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir. Mr. Michelle, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn, ma'am.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-736, a resolution authorizing emergency utility appropriations to the state fiscal year 2021 temporary budgets of the City of Trenton.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council
Second.
President Caldwell-Wilson, a second by Ms. Vaughn. The floor is open.
You can move it.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-737, a resolution adopting an estimated tax levy for the purposes of issuing 2021 first quarter tax bills. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
I got a question.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Councilwoman.
Yeah.
Floor is open.
So, B.A. Cruz, if he's available. A resolution adopting an estimated tax levy for the purpose of issuing 2021 first quarter tax bills. So, of course, we don't have any insight to what our budget is going to look like. So, what estimated tax levy are we putting forward to the residents' first quarter?
Madam President, Vice President.
Yes,
may I?
go ahead, Mr. Cruz.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman, it is actually the same levy that was used for the last quarter of last year's, of this year. So for the fourth quarter. So it's the same amount in the tax rate for,
Okay.
for the first quarter.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Okay.
You can move it, Mr. Connor.
Yes, ma'am. I have an introduction by Council Chairman Caldwell-Wilson, a second by Mr. Harrison. And I'll call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Council Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
Order. Next, we have Resolution 20-738, a resolution authorizing the City of Trenton to issue refunds due to erroneous duplicate payments totaling $1,760.01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Actually Harrison. I'm sorry, he spoke up first, madam.
Sorry.
I have a second by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Do I call the roll, ma'am?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-739, a resolution authorizing the City of Trenton to cancel balances on city-owned properties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Vaughn. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Rodriguez. Floor is open. Does anybody wish to be heard?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
I think in the public comments, this was mentioned in the public comments. And I would like to somebody from the administration to explain it a little bit. Explain what is it? What are those balances?
Mr. Cruz, is someone available?
Ms. Ludden from the Tax Department is available. She was the one that signed off as to the factual content.
Yes, Constance.
Ms. Ludden?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Yes.
Hello?
Now, you were in and out, Ms. Ludden.
these properties were properties that were foreclosed by the city in the year of 2020, and therefore were not able to carry an exempt status on the books for 2020, and therefore they have balances that are remaining. They will be on the rolls as exempt properties in 2021, but when it happens during the year, the assessor is not able to get them on as exempt. Has nothing to do with the city auction.
Okay, let me say something. That means that if we don't vote on this, the tax will be assessed on those properties and it will come as income for the city, right?
No, because the city can't pay itself. It will be a deficit because those charges will be outstanding.
Okay, so
we're never going to collect this money because the city owns the property now.
Yeah, that's what. But if this process is not conducted, then although the city is the owner, it will be exempted. That the numbers will be there somehow, right?
If this resolution isn't adopted, then the amounts will be carried through as outstanding, which is a receivable on our balanced budget sheet, and then we'll look like we're not collecting all the money that we need to run the town.
That is a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lutton.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Mr. Cronin.
Yes, I have a motion by Councilmember Vaughn, a second by Councilmember Rodriguez. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-740, a resolution awarding a contract extension through a fair and open process in accordance with NJSA 19:44 et sec to the Rescue Mission of Trenton, New Jersey, LLC, 98 Carroll Street, Trenton, New Jersey, for emergency shelter for homeless single men and women in an amount not to exceed $279,130. Your competitive contract 2019-07. Do I have a motion?
I have a question, Council Vice President Chair.
We need to move. Can we move and second it first?
I have a motion by Mr. Blakely. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Harrison.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Go ahead, Ms. Vaughn.
Yeah, I have a question about this. Emergency shelter. Is the Health and Human Service Director on the line, or Yvette, or the health officer?
Councilwoman, I am on, but I also have Ms. Mary Grace and Mr. Derek Young from the rescue mission that are waiting to speak. Council President had asked.
Yeah, let them. Yeah, all right. Well,
who would like to speak first? Mary Grace?
Ms. Graves, you go ahead, Ms. Graves.
Actually, I think it's Grace Billick. I actually would prefer if Barrett spoke first, and then I'm happy to follow up.
Sure.
Hello, this is Barrett Young from the Rescue Mission of Trenton.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Young. Can you answer the councilwoman's questions?
Can she repeat
Yes.
the question? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
yeah. So, I thought they were going to present first, and then, but nonetheless, I'm happy to. I'll make my question. It's very simple. In light of the information that we've been receiving, daily about the COVID crisis in the city of Trenton, and the levels of instances that we have. And last I read from a report that we have 4,410 cases in the city of Trenton, but it didn't mention how many have died. So here we are. I see that, of course, I'm very familiar with the rescue mission, and I understand your work, and of course, it is well respected and appreciated. You help so many people over the years and current day, but I'm just curious as to how the money is being allocated. You said you're going to use it for homeless shelter, but how are you faring with quarantine and testing? Are you just letting anybody into this shelter? How's this working? And I know that in the earlier in the year when the CARES Act came through, we had given you a big allocation of funding. So just how are you using that funding? Has it been exhausted? That's what my question is.
Thank you very much for your kind comments about the work that we do. And I would like to just answer about the COVID cases and how we're faring and how we are doing. I appreciate you asking. We are continuing to operate the shelter as we, as we always have. It is 24 hours, 365 days a year operation. We have taken numerous steps to try to enhance the safety of both the clients and the staff. We reduced number of beds in the shelter. We purchased plexiglass that is 6 foot long by 3.5 foot high and attached that to each and every bed so that it provides a safety barrier between each client while they're sleeping. We have obviously a mandatory mask wearing policy. Every client's temperature is taken upon entrance into the shelter. We do a COVID screening with both our clients and our staff. We are working very closely with the city and the COVID Recovery Center. So if there is a participant who needs to quarantine, they are going there, and that is that's a wonderful partnership between the city of Trenton, Henry J. Austin, Capitol Health, Mercer. It just shows how how our community comes together in a crisis. We also have put all of our vulnerable clients in one section of our shelter, and they stay in that area, and they are separated from the rest of the population to try to mitigate the spread to the vulnerable, meaning the older clients and or those with pre-existing conditions. And the beginning of this month, we partnered with the city of Trenton, and they came out and tested all of our participants in the shelter. We're looking to do some more frequent testing in the shelter, both for our staff and for our clients. That is kind of where we're at currently. We obviously have hand sanitizer stations all throughout the facility. We distribute masks to the clients and to our staff regularly. All of that comes at not a cheap price tag, any of that stuff.
So the testing. So have you? Are any persons in your facility that you have provided shelter to is part of that 4,410 cases that have been identified in the city of Trenton? Have you tested any of your clients tested positive?
So I can answer it this way: is we have done testing twice in the shelter, once with the state in a pilot project, and once with the city of Trenton. And both of those times, we were very fortunate that we had no positive cases in the shelter at that exact moment that we tested. Does that mean that homeless clients have not tested positive in the city of Trenton? That is not the case at all. That is one of the main reasons why the COVID Recovery Center is so critical to our community to try to mitigate spread, is because it gives the population, the homeless population, an area to safely quarantine without being in a communal living space, and they are still supervised by staff, and they can do their quarantine and then return to the shelter once they have completed their quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. So you're doing testing. I guess there's some level of contact tracing is being done and quarantine.
Yep.
And some level of enforcement, right? So you're enforcing folks to stay in quarantine for a certain period of time, and you have the resources to monitor those steps.
Yes, ma'am. the COVID recovery center where the clients go to quarantine is run by the city of Trenton, and it's through the guidance of Ruth Carter, and she's, I don't think there's anyone that could say ill will towards her. She's done a great job of making sure that facility runs well. That runs in coordination with her in the city.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. That's all I have, Council.
Thank you.
Vice Chair. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead, Mr. Connor.
Did you want to hear from Ms. Grace Billick, Madam?
That was Ms. Vaughn. She got her questions answered. We're fine.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, very good. I have an introduction by a correction. Mr. Harrison corrected me. I believe he said he introduced this. I'm sorry, I thought it was Mr. Blakely. I have a second by Ms. Vaughn.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, not a question, more of a comment for the folks.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Give me 1 second. We are talking about the rescue mission, correct?
20-740, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the leadership of the rescue mission of Trenton for their awesome work in helping folks in our city who are in dire need of assistance. It's very trying times for so many people, and I'm just very happy that we have the rescue mission playing such an important role to keep people protected from the elements and to provide housing for people who don't have it. And so I'd just like to say thank you very much and keep up the good work. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Council Vice President.
My fault.
As Vice President. Council Vice President.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Harris.
You recognize, sir.
Yes. I would like to the same. Thank you, the rescue mission, Salvation Army. We have Ruth Carter, who does phenomenal work for the city. But overall, like I said, we have to do our part for the people of this city that are in dire need. So, rescue mission, thank you for stepping up and doing your part. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
And Mary Guy, this is Councilwoman Caldwell Wilson. I've known you for years, and I know how hard you work and how dedicated you are to helping the homeless people in the city of Trenton. So I want to thank you and your board. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can do the vote, Mr. Connor.
Yes, ma'am. And now proceed to the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-743, a resolution authorizing payment for a contract. And just a note for the record, once again, 741 and 742 were requested to be pulled by the administration. Next, we have Resolution 20-743, a resolution authorizing payment for a contract with ACED Heating and Cooling, Inc., which was awarded on an emergency basis for the furnace replacement at 35 Christoph Avenue for the Department of Housing and Economic Development in an amount not to exceed $4,350.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Vaughn. Madam, would you like to speak?
Yes, I can. Is Ben Delisle available?
I'm here.
Hi, Mr. Delisle. How are you?
I'm fine.
I'm interested. I'm. This is the property. Of one of the constituents that live, one of the residents in my ward, and I'm just curious as to where did the funding come from to support, this assistance. And actually, I'm very grateful for the efforts that your department have made in servicing the residents of the city, and is an example of what city government's supposed to do for residents, I do believe. Of course, going with the right programs through the right process, and making sure that folks meet the criteria. But this is what city government and government is supposed to do. But I just curious, just for my education, and as I go through this, navigate the city, and folks will always have emergencies and in our need of assistance. How did you come up with the funding, and what program supports this?
Oh, thank you, Councilwoman. Council Vice President, is it all right for me to respond?
Go ahead, Mr. Delisle.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Vaughn, this was an unusual case in that it is city-owned property that we just recently acquired from tax foreclosure, and recognizing the cold weather coming on and the practicality of finding, to relocate the tenant there, we use city funds just to make the necessary repairs. And this is a property that we will look to convey either to the tenant or to someone else in a future city auction. So this was not an ongoing program that we have. We do have emergency programs through the CDBG funding that we'll be making available. This particular one, though, I don't remember the exact account number, but it was city funds that we used.
Okay. Now, in this instance, I remember that we discussed, it's been a while, but I remember this one, that we were going to try to transition this particular tenant. And of course, she is one of many in the city, right, under the same circumstances, right? Living in a house that was previously owned and the owner abandoned it for whatever the reason, right? And
right.
And are we still working on? I know I haven't seen any. I haven't seen you return to council with the amendments to the land banking ordinance, but are we working on getting folks in this type of situation transitioned to ownership, from renting to home ownership?
Yeah, Councilwoman, a great example is at this most recent municipal auction. One of the tenants actually won the bid and be buying the property from the city, from the municipal auction. They came in the very next day and put down the requisite deposit. So that's one mechanism where this is indeed happening. The land banking that you mentioned, working on having a presentation made to City Council just to educate folks on the concept of land banking, and then I'll be amending that draft legislation to Council for their consideration.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Delisle. Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Conlon, you can move.
Yes, ma'am. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
He's on mute.
I know, ma'am.
No.
Oh.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir? Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat it again, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Can you
Michel.
hear me?
I can hear you now, sir. Mr. Michel votes yes. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez votes yes. Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn votes yes. Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-744, a resolution accepting bids and awarding a contract to Armando's Construction, Inc. for a citywide bleacher replacement program to remove and legally dispose of existing non-code compliant bleachers and install concrete pads and bleachers at citywide facilities in an amount not to exceed $133,050 for a period of 1 year through bid 2020-52.
So moved.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harrison.
I have a question, Council President Chair.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Yes. So is Director Richardson on the line?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So this resolution and this contractor is removing Armando's Construction, Inc. Is going to be replacing bleachers in the parks. Can you tell me?
It's going to be. I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Councilwoman.
Go ahead. You go ahead. No. Go ahead. Explain.
Yes. This contractor is basically going to be replacing bleachers, pouring the pads or the concrete foundations for the bleachers, and reinstalling and installing new bleachers at Cadwallader Park, Unity, Gil Carter, Greg Grant, Jeff Vincent Park, MLK, Sonny Vereen, James Sonny Vereen Park, and Wetzel Field.
And we're going to get new bleachers and at the basketball court in Calwater Park?
Yes, that's correct.
And on the alongside of the Little League baseball field?
That is correct.
Okay. And this company, but I thought we had another company that installed bleachers.
We probably have many companies installing bleachers, but we went out for public procurement, and this is the company who won the bid.
No, what I'm asking, I'm sorry, let me just clarify. We had passed another resolution that you put forward from your department for replacement of bleachers. So, and I was never known that those bleachers got installed.
Yes, we actually last year put forward a resolution to install bleachers at the 611 Little League, and yes, they were installed.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. You can move forward, Mr. Cruz.
I'm sorry. I just want to say one more thing. Ask Ms. Richardson one more thing.
Go ahead.
So why are we outsourcing this? I know that our public works department can do this. No.
No, I don't think so. There are companies that specialize in doing those things, and public works does not specialize in.
Let me just be clear. I was hoping that you would be on the same page because you've been around the city for many, many years. So I remember when, I don't know whether it's a combination of public works or parks and recreation resources, but this type of work was done internally in the city.
No, not really. It's never been done internally.
Yeah, really. Because my uncle used to work in Calwater Park along with Gene Shadow and Marandy Baum, and absolutely, really, it was installed internally.
No, I have been working for the city since the year 2000, since Gene Shadow was the director.
Okay. I'm just making an observation that I think work like this does not have to be outsourced. And any opportunity that we get. So
I would be great, Councilwoman, and I agree with you. If we would have the resources, when Gene Shadow was the director of the Division of Natural Resources and Francis Blanco was the director of the department, we have 96 employees in the department. We have a lot of carpenters. We have people that were able to pour concrete. However, that was never done internally, even with that amount of personnel. Right now, I have 6 permanent employees and 3 seasonals, and neither one of them will have the expertise.
Okay, so again, we have these conversations not just with you, but across the city. When are we gonna, turn internal and start ramping up your resources? We're about to embark on a budget season.
In the next budget, in the budget that is going to be introduced pretty soon, I have included several positions to see if we can actually make the department stronger and see if in the foreseeable future we could start doing things internally.
Because so here we are. People. We're talking about outsourcing and versus insourcing, and I don't understand how folks live in the city of Trenton, and we understand we have residency laws. Lots of folks we're in violation of that, but yet you got a $133,000 contract. That money could stay inside Trenton. And I don't get why you yourself as a Trentonian, I don't understand why you will not just constantly your whole docket, every time you present something, is outsourced outside our borders.
Yes. However, those are the things that I need,
Every
but I
time.
am pretty sure that it's also obvious the things that we do with the amount of personnel that we do. I would love to hear you making comments about that, Councilwoman, too.
About what?
About the work that is done internally, which is a lot of work, too. I can only do what I do, and I give the most to the city. And yes, I have lived here for 30 years. So I am a Trentonian, and I do my best with what I have. I cannot produce work with my staff or with TPW staff that they are not prepared to do. It is also my responsibility to do the best for the city of Trenton.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Vice President?
Yes, Councilman.
Richardson, question is, how many people do you have on your staff regarding the shade tree?
I have 3 individuals in shade tree, 1 crew.
Right, 1 crew for the whole city. Right,
Correct.
so we need equipment. Like you said, we need to buy equipment to actually address these trees, the problems of trees. These bleachers, they've been an ongoing problem because the bleachers are bad in the city. I know I've personally seen you, Marie, out there all the time when out there helping feed people in the parks or stuff like that. So let me tell you something. Maria Richardson works hard. I firsthand see it. So thank you. Like you said, I see it, and I know you work hard.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman.
Thank you. Mr. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am. I have a motion by Council Chairman Colwell-Wilson, a second by Mr. Harrison. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Colwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-745. A resolution authorizing change order number 1 in the amount of $3,500 to contract with Lamanna Electric, Inc. to complete the installation of 1 Generac industrial gaseous 175-watt natural gas engine-driven generator at West Ward Engine 9, 1464 West State Street. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion by Council President Colwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Harrison. Any comment, or would you like me to proceed to the vote?
Move the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. I didn't hear you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Colwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-747, a resolution authorizing a contract extension to Majestic Oil Company, Inc., 2104 Fairfax Avenue, Charlie Hill, New Jersey, 08003-1624 for the furnishing and delivery of diesel fuel, ultra-low sulfur, and winter mix on an as-needed basis for various departments, divisions in the City of Trenton through the New Jersey State Contract T184519-FOOD-01098 in an amount not to exceed $233,075.04. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion from Council Vice President Colwell-Wilson. I have a second by Mr. Blakely. Is there any comment, or would you like me to move to the vote, ma'am?
Move the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Could I make a comment
It's up to the chair.
before Council Vice
You can make
President?
a comment before you vote.
Yeah. Very quickly, I just want to say, is Wally Onateri on the line? Is Wally Onateri on the line?
Yes, I am, Councilwoman. Yes, I am. Good
Yes.
evening.
Hi. I just want to quickly follow up on a question that one of the residents had put forward in their public comments regarding this resolution. And what the individual stated was that why couldn't we find something like this? It looks like this product is very, it's probably available within the county, Mercer County, if not even in our borders. So why are we going all the way out to Cherry Hill? Just Cherry Hill is what, in Burlington County? So why are we doing that? Why aren't we going local with these products?
Again, thank you, Councilwoman. Just like the BA said earlier about the way we do this procurement, first of all, you have to think about the price when this thing goes out for bid. That's one. Two, we're going through to get this thing through the state. The state have a procurement for us to look into for the price wise, and we try to get the best price we could. That is why we don't really base it on where these people are located. We just get for the best price we could.
Okay. Yep. I know. I understand the procurement process, but the procurement process also, as executives, you should be definitely first and foremost looking local, right? We just gave our council members gave presentations to local businesses and trying to keep them open during COVID. So why do we go so far away when we could go local? And we count on the executive. That's why you're the directors of the department, because you can make decisions like this. I understand that there's a process, but there's always other considerations, right? So if there's an opportunity to buy diesel fuel locally, why not do that? That's all. Thank you, Council Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Amateri.
Your vote,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
You can move it, Mr. Connell.
I have. We're in the middle of the vote, ma'am. Ms. Vaughn, your vote?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson, your vote, ma'am?
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-748, a resolution rejecting the bids received for snow plowing one. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Mr.
Second.
Blakely. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Vaughn.
Councilman Harrison again.
Yes, Councilman.
No, I'm saying, I said so moved.
Okay.
My apologies, Mr. Harrison. Would you like anybody to comment, or would you like me to proceed to the vote?
You can proceed, Mr. Connell.
Mr. Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-749, a resolution authorizing a contract to Mars Company for the license renewal and software update on the water meter test bench at Trenton Water Meter Shop in an amount not to exceed $47,606.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Harrison. Would you like me to proceed to the vote, or is the floor, or would anybody wish to be recognized?
Councilwoman, you wish to speak? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Is Mr. Lavenberg available?
Yes, Councilwoman.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Again,
Lavenberg.
Mr. Lavenberg, renewal of resolution authorizing a contract to Mars Company for the license renewal and software update on the water meter test bench at Trenton Ward. So, again, where is this company located?
I would not have the location at hand. I do know that I know they're a sole proprietor of the software, and it came with the testing package that we purchased, I believe, last year.
Mm-hmm.
I could certainly get you the location, but they are the sole bidder, so I don't understand what the location would be.
Well, again, I'm just an advocate and advocating for local businesses and local employment, and I would want you guys to do the same. So I don't want you taking my taxpayer dollars outside this border if I don't have to, and I'm not going to be beholden to a procurement process. So the number one priority is to stay within our borders as much as possible when you do business and spend taxpayer dollars of the city of Trenton. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Lavenberg. I know you don't live in Trenton, but that's okay. But you still should come and work and try to use our taxpayer dollars prudently. Okay?
Yes, that is well understood. Councilwoman Vaughn, this equipment was purchased prior to me being here. I would just really encourage a company like this to certainly, move to the capital city where there's.
No, I'm not saying move to the capital city, but I'm saying look around the capital city and our contiguous borders to find within Mercer County to find if there's a product we could do that. We could do that.
And I would appreciate anything with that. I mean, this is a sole manufacturer of this product, and if we ever find a company that's within the borders of Trenton that would facilitate a meter bench kit such as this, we would certainly more than entertain that.
Yeah, and I'm going to hold you to that, Mr. Lavenberg, because you run the Department of Water and Sewer. You're one of the largest revenue-making entities in our city, and certainly you spend the most money and you contract out the most. And it would be interesting to know what percentage of your contracts are local versus outside of Trenton in our contiguous borders. So just be cognizant and just be sensitive to that. That's all I'm asking.
Always, Councilwoman. Thank you for your input.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Would you like to move the vote?
Yeah, you can move on.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn, your vote, ma'am.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson, your vote, ma'am.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-750, a resolution exercising the option to extend the contract for an additional 1 year awarded to Scott Testing, Inc. for inspection, testing, and preventative repair maintenance of primary and secondary electrical equipment for the City of Trenton Department of Water and Sewer in an amount not to exceed $129,764 through bid 2019-86.
So moved.
I have a motion by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Blakely. Would you like me to move to the vote, ma'am, or does anybody wish to be recognized?
You can move.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn, your vote, ma'am.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson, your vote, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-751, a resolution authorizing payment for a contract with Ducon Inc., P.O. Box 439, Basking Ridge, New Jersey, 07920, awarded on an emergency basis for sewer repairs at 17 East Front Street in an amount not to exceed $54,123.72 for the Trenton Sewer Utility. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. I have a second by Mr. Blakely.
Yes, Council Vice Chair.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Yes, Mr. Lavenberg. This emergency contract was on East Front Street.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay. Now this is what area on East Front Street? Let me think. Okay. Well, I have an issue with this because East Front Street is one of those areas that are being constantly dug up. And, some of it has paver bricks and, it's just not being properly repaved or the bricks haven't been properly reinstalled after this type of construction has been done by contractors like Ducon. So are you providing the oversight of these jobs and a quality assurance supervisor going out there and look at these jobs?
I supervise the engineering department that does the inspection on all of these projects. I can't speak to the specifics of 17 East Front Street. I do understand intimately the issue with the pavers that have been, in some cases, paved over. So I'm not sure if this is a asphalt road over top of a previously paved road, like we have on Warren Street and places like that. It is a major concern that we have as a utility, given the road conditions in the city, and that is something that we certainly didn't discuss or budget for in the 2021 budget, but would like to make a much larger effort in addressing those issues going forward. And so, if I might just add, I mean, there's often, again, these lead back to the galvanized service lines that are left in the road. I don't need to speak off of this resolution. I don't want to get in trouble with the clerk. But, this was a sewer issue, but again, it's an issue that every time we dig the road, especially after it was just recently paved, that's a major concern that we should all have, and I certainly share that.
Yeah, so, is Wally Untitled still on the line? Or did
Yes,
he-
Councilwoman. Yes,
Yeah,
Councilwoman.
so, Wally, you're familiar with East Front Street, right? You know what area I'm talking about, right?
Yes, that's correct, with the red bricks.
Yeah, so this was an emergency contract by Ducon. So, they must have dug it up again, like the umpteen thousand times, and they never fixed that stretch of road there. And so what's your viewpoint on this? Are you working with the water department when these emergency dig-ups happen?
Well, yes, we are working with them. We are working with water department to try to fix all those red bricks in downtown area, including the one in particular you are talking about. So I'm already in touch with Sean, who's working with us, the engineer working with us to take care of all that. And I think after they do all they have to do, and they will be doing that, yes.
Oh, so you have a plan to fix all that? I mean, I'm sorry, Council, actually, this is not even my ward.
That's all right.
I'm just using this as an example, Vice Chair.
That's all right. Go ahead.
It happens all over the city. So, so Ms. Donateri, so there's a plan to fix this area, because this is this area gets a lot of complaints, as you know.
Again, yes, we're working with water department to have all this area fixed. Yes, all those things that was done a few years back, yes, they're coming back to get all those done.
Okay. All right. So we'll be watching, because even now, Ducon is there again, dig it up. And I bet you if I go down there, they patched it in a way that was just not acceptable, probably with coal patch or something. And the bricks are, further ruined,
One
I
of
would
the
like to
reasons
see both you.
probably do temporary patching right now is just for safety reasons. They will do that, and then they will come back later on to do the whole thing. We're in communication with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I look forward to seeing the work in that area, redone properly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conan, you can move the vote.
Yes, ma'am. I have an introduction by Council Vice President Cole-Wilson, a second by Mr. Blakely. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle. Mr. Michelle, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rodriguez, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council Vice President.
Yes.
Thank you. So ordered. Council President McBride is absent. Next, we will have Resolution 20-752, a resolution rejecting proposals received for engineering services for unaccounted for water program assistance, Phase 1 services are through RFP 2020-35. I have a motion.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Vaughn. Anybody have any questions or comments, or would you like me to move to the vote?
Move to the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent. Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. Next, we have Resolution 20-753, a resolution awarding a contract to Earl Asphalt Company to restore the roadway at 1661 North Alden Avenue, Trenton, after a 16-inch water main break in an amount not to exceed $51,113.13 through RFB 2020-62, mill and pave.
So moved.
I have a motion by President Caldwell-Wilson, a second by Mr. Harrison. Any questions, or would you like me to move to the vote then?
You can move the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blakely, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, your vote, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Michelle, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn, ma'am.
awarding a contract to Earl, Council Vice President, may I just make a comment about the Earl Asphalt Company?
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
So they restored this at, Mr. Lavenberg.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So Earl Asphalt came in and restored the blacktop on North Roseland Avenue after a water main break, right?
Yeah, and it was a rather large water main break at that, if I could add that.
Yeah, I think I know where it was. But who fixed the water main break? Which company? Which emergency contract was that?
I do not have that information in front of me. I'm not sure. I know the water main break predated me. Some people at Trenton had notified me that there was a big break on the 16th of Olden, which is always a trouble spot, but I could certainly get you the information of who did the repair. I would assume Ducon or Wooders and Bugsby or Jinguli, one of the local contractors.
Excuse me, sir? It was Ducon, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so, if you look at, the reason why I asked that, because when you add this up, when you go to Ducon, and, it'll be a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 emergency contract, and then you add that up with the amount of money that it takes to fix it. This is, it just seems that these two, this is like, we treat them as two separate incidents or two separate jobs. I think that they should be costed out as one instance, meaning that you come out an emergency contract, then you got to come out with a pavement. There must be some type of discount that we can get. No?
I don't want to go too far out on a limb with this situation, but I know Ducon has the ability to do restoration and repaving of roads. Given the nature and size of this water main break and the traffic that we get on Olden Avenue, this would require a company that really specializes in paving to get it as close to the original road surface that there is. I can get you much more detail on that as how that got broken up, but I would also add that 16-inch main on Olden Avenue is in really difficult condition and is just part of an ever-aging infrastructure where we can anticipate further water main breaks on that 16.
Yeah, I understand. So I'm glad that we had this discussion, because you are where there's an opportunity to treat it as one job. If Ducon, if the section is not so large, they can restore and repave the hole.
Yes, they can.
Okay, and that's usually with the contract, like the one above, 2751, Ducon 54,000. So that one appears to be a smaller one, not a giant water main break, the water main break as in 2753. So yes. That one, Ducon would patch and pave it back up, right?
That is correct, yes. The one on 17 East Front was actually a sewer lateral, so that was a very small hole where they dug that up. The explosive force of a 16 is rather intense, and it saves you a lot of time on the backhoe because it usually blows most of the dirt right out of the hole before you get in there. That's kind of like a little water humor before the holidays.
Yep, the same water main break all the time. I know exactly that spot that we're talking about.
Yep.
But okay,
yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Councilwoman. You can move it, Mr. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Vaughn, your vote, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes.
Council President McBride is absent, and Chairman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
So ordered. We are now done with the resolutions on the docket, and we shall now move to public comments, if you'd like to open that, ma'am.
Okay.
If any members of the public wish to be recognized, please raise your hand, and I will seek recognition for you from the council chair. Do any members of the public wish to raise their hands and be recognized? We have Ms. Sherry Garrett, who would like to be recognized, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Garrett.
Thank you very much. I just want to comment.
Can't
Ms.
hear you.
Garrett,
Can't hear you, Sherry.
you can't hear you. Can you push the
Sorry,
microphone?
my mic was above my head. 2751 and 2753. Just a small comment to add on with Councilwoman Vaughn's question. If 2751, even though it's a sewage issue, we're dealing still with pavement and repairs, emergency repairs. Why is the prices similar for the same, for even though one is dealing with sewage and one is dealing with water valve break? I just don't, if it's a small area on 17 East Front Street, I guess because we're talking about the bricks, that's why it's costly at $54,000, and then we're saying it's a 16-inch water main break, 1661. I'm not understanding why the prices are, the cost is almost the same, short of a few $1,000s. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett.
Any other members of the public wish to be recognized for public portion? Once again, would any other members of the public wish to be recognized for public portion? Council Vice President, I don't have anybody wishing to seek recognition. Would you like to entertain a motion to close public portion?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to close public portion?
So moved.
I have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Blakely to close public portion. I'm sorry, who gave the second?
Second.
I have a second by Council Vice President Colwell-Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So ordered. Public portion is closed. We shall now move on to the citizen comments portion of the meeting.
Okay. Mr. Blakely?
Oh, yes, thank you so much, Chairwoman Colwell-Wilson. I just wanted to start off by thanking all of the employees of the clerk's office as well as City Hall for their work over the last year. It's been a very, very trying time in city government for our city. You know, we've been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic, and I just want to say I appreciate how hard you are working to make sure our city still is running in the midst of very challenging times. You all are doing such incredible work with limited resources. You have offices that have not recovered in terms of staff numbers since the Christie administration. And so I'd like to thank all of the municipal workers, the police officers, the firefighters, the cabinet directors, everyone in City Hall, members of the City Council, for holding our city together in a very, very troubling time. And, you know, it's not easy. You all are asked to do so much with so little. And for that, I'm deeply appreciative. You often don't get compliments publicly. You're criticized by many people for many reasons. But I just want to say thank you and to keep up the good work. Hopefully, you know, the coronavirus pandemic is ending, you know, with the advent of a vaccine that I hope is shared far and wide in our city to mitigate the worst impact of the coronavirus pandemic. I'd also like to just really hope that City Council and the mayor can work together to fight against DCA and the governor's office for them including, you know, conditions on capital city aid. Capital city aid is not a gift, right? It's not something that is extra. This is something that this city is owed based on our status as the state capital. You know, Trenton has significant burdens because of our status as the state capital. Generations ago, the state condemned property that was paying property taxes that was darn near waterfront, and they took that land and built buildings like the Justice Complex, like the parking lots that are around the Trent House. They took that land, and if we had that property still existing, this city could have done, we would have tens of millions of dollars in property tax revenue that the state basically took away from us to build those parking lots that are not generating any revenue. But what the state instead does is give us capital city aid in payment for their taking that land. And I just want to say, with friends like these, if they are going to condition capital city aid for us having an MOU, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Who needs enemies? And I just think that this is something that we need to really focus on. Quite frankly, I am insulted every time I have to go to DCA to get permission to do things. No few other municipalities in this state have to deal with that burden. And the fact that we have to deal with that burden is outrageous. Why be an elected official if I have to check in with someone who doesn't live here, who was not elected by the city, the residents of the city, to do what we think is best? We have all of the blame, and we don't share any of the blame with the faceless bureaucrats in DCA. And so, I just think it's outrageous. I think that I am going to be reaching out to the governor's office and to the commissioner of DCA, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. I just think that this is unfair. I don't think that we should have, the MOU in perpetuity. And with this simple decision, this has never happened before, where capital city aid, us getting capital city aid is dependent on the MOU. It didn't even happen with the previous governor. And so, quite frankly, we have to do something about this. I just don't understand why democracy in Trenton is not the same as democracy in other parts of this community. I don't think that they would put this kind of onerous restrictions on a community that was not of color as Trenton is. And so I just want to be very clear about that. I think it's wrong. I think it's terrible. And, DCA is not the duly elected representatives, to use Councilwoman Vaughn's term. They're not duly elected representatives. We have the responsibility, and we should have the power as well as the responsibility. And I'm very, very passionate, very, very, I'm not going to let this down, because I really think that is just unacceptable. I've already reached out to contacts in the governor's office, and I'm just not going to let it go, because it's just not right. It's not right at all. Happy holidays, everyone. It has been a very, very interesting 12 months in the city of Trenton, and I look forward to a calmer, more prosperous 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Harrison?
First, I would like to say tonight I'm a little disappointed. We had a bond ordinance tonight that we should have passed. It would have been 50% of it would have been forgiven that we didn't pass. Tonight we have an ordinance 20-60. If you look on there, section 1, letter C, legislative counsel shall be available to the council at all regular and special meetings. That's in violation of the Faulkner Act. So, I'm not sure if when we put this together, if we read that, but it's in there. So at the end of the day, that's wrong. Like the same thing like Mr. Blakely said, I like to thank the community, New Hope Church of God, Calgary Missionary Baptist Church, my colleagues, city workers, Maria Richardson. You can name the amount of employees who've been out there working hard during the COVID, gone out there testing, getting supplies out in the community, mask. So it's greatly appreciated. So at the end of the day, like you said, we have the budget coming up. So you're right. We got to work hard to get this budget worked out. But at the end of the day, we got to start moving these things forward in the city. So at the end of the day, let's just keep working together. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Kwanzaa. So hope everybody enjoys the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Michelle?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes, I just want to wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody, and thank not only everybody in Trenton for putting up with us for this year. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bond? Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, I concur with all the comments that my fellow council members have just spoken. Happy holidays to everyone. And I just want to make certain that in the midst of COVID and the pandemic, that everybody, stay vigilant and you stay safe and you continue to follow the guidance of washing your hands and wearing face masks and social distancing. Do not falter on that. We're getting information every day that the virus is mutating, is changing, is becoming more deadlier, more contagious. So we want to flatten the curve in Trenton. Right now, the number seems to be, very high for our municipality, although we have the demographic and the high risk demographic. And it's expected, but nonetheless, there's a lot of things that we can do as individuals to flatten that curve and have impact and decrease those numbers. I just wanted to get some comments from the health officer, if she's on the line, as to what her concerns are about what is she doing about that number, because we haven't heard it. I mean, I read it in the papers and hear it in different other mediums about Trenton. So is she on the line? Yvette?
I'm here.
So Yvette, this number, this 4,410 cases in Trenton, are you aware of that? Because this is my first time hearing this.
Yes, ma'am. So the actual number for Trenton right now is actually 5,934. And that is as of today. So yes, I am aware of the number that we're at for Trenton, and we continue to, do our part with the contact tracing and notifying families, and continue to do the education campaign to.
So we got the test plan, we got contact tracing. Do we have an enforcement plan? How are we quarantining? Because I don't know that people are being quarantined.
The individuals that we are doing the contact, yes, we do have some individuals that do not follow the isolation quarantine instruction, but again, this is 5,000 plus individuals. So it's kind of with the staff that I have and the staff that's also provided by the county, it is kind of hard to keep up and make sure that 100% of them do the quarantine, but 90% of them are doing it, especially the positive ones that have symptoms. They are definitely isolating, quarantining, and with the message that we give,
how many staff do you have in the city of Trenton that's working on the enforcement piece, on ensuring that the folks who have been identified with who have contracted the virus, how are you enforcing? I mean, is there penalties? Because I know in some cities, they are actually fining people if they find out that they're not adhering to the quarantine.
So what we have done to ensure that they do quarantine, we offer to supply them with whatever it is that they need in order to stay home and not leave home. So, for example, we have staff that would go out and do grocery shopping. We have staff that will go pick up their medicine. We have staff that will drop off gloves and masks and sanitizing. So we have done all that we can to ensure that they are staying home. We do check with them quite often to make sure that to check on their symptoms, to make sure that they're not in need of anything. And yes, so with enforcement, yes, we do our best to keep them home. And like I said,
are there communication out there that letting folks know that what the penalties and the consequences are if they do not adhere to the quarantine measures?
Of course, there's a lot of information that they can look up. I've not had anyone that we have quarantined that has publicly violate that we know of. And the ones that we do were given a warning. So we just can't, they have to be given a warning before you can give them a penalty.
How many of the 5,000 plus people, how many are quarantined?
and this is 5,000 from the beginning of the pandemic. So this is not 5,000 as of today. So from the beginning of the pandemic, that's a cumulative number. Every single one of them has been isolated. Their family members have been quarantined. So everyone that called, we put them in isolation and quarantine their family members. And it is
So are you, my last question to you, Ms. Graffy Cooper, are you planning on ramping up resources for registered health specialists? Because we're going to need them, right, with those numbers. How many resources have you ramped up since the pandemic? I guess it was early March when we first, started managing to the pandemic. So how many resources have you hired within the Health and Human Services Department to address the pandemic?
Okay. What we have done is the state gave us permission to, for example, we have a lead program that has 5 nurses in that program and some medical assistants. We also have the registered environmental health specialist office. What the state did, they gave us permission to relieve those nurses from their duties of the lead program and convert them into the COVID issue. So we have transformed our environmental health specialists and our lead program nurses and all other supporting staff, and everyone was working 100% on COVID. Okay. In October that we kind of send, when the children start going back to school, we kind of took some of the nurses off the COVID team and put them back to lead, because lead is still a big issue within the city of Trenton. So we just recently removed some of the nurses because the state and the county have hired quite a few contact tracers that are available to us to help us with the contact tracing. So that burden, that load of contact tracing has been reduced from the contact tracer that's applied to us from the state.
Yep. But I'm definitely interested to hear more about the enforcement piece, because that's what I'm hearing about in the media as well, that folks aren't quarantined and some folks are asymptomatic but yet contagious, and folks, we got to stop the spread, and I just want to hear more about the plan. But you answered my questions as for now. I appreciate you, and you stay safe as well, and happy holidays. And I just want to also speak to the other first responding department in our city, is the police department. They had a very challenging year this year, to say the least. Gun violence is just as deadly as the pandemic, and we appreciate all the work that has been done to date to make our city safe. Over the past few weeks, we have seen some of the results from the policing, the added policing in our municipality. I think the Trenton Police Department has done very well with investigating and solving certain crimes, have confiscated a lot of the guns off the street with assistance from state police and the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office. The Homicide Task Force, those folks. So they've been doing good work in getting some of these crimes, these heinous crimes solved, and getting some of these dangerous folks off the street, and trying to minimize this carnage that's been going on. And we appreciate law enforcement. We know it's a very tough job, and we don't always get the turnaround that we expect, but nonetheless, the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing the output of all their efforts, and we appreciate you, and continue to stay safe, and happy holidays to all the folks in law enforcement, the fire department, again, the Homicide Task Force, the investigators, the state police. We appreciate you. And also, I just want to say that, the council, we continue to work hard. We try to continue to work collaboratively. I think over the next year, as we go into the new year, I think the council should reconsider and think about some restructuring, some reorganization. I think we owe us that. I think that we should consider rotating some of our roles and responsibilities. and leadership and chairing some of the meetings and et cetera. And I think that will change some of the dynamics and foster more team efforts and collaborations, and also give other council members a feeling of, more equal.
30 seconds, ma'am.
Okay. It just promotes equality across the council, and that everybody gets a turn to lead, and I think that will be good for our organization going forward in 2021. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you, and I appreciate all that we've done this year. We have accomplished a lot, and I expect to accomplish more in 2021. Thank you. Have a good one, guys, and mask up. Keep your mask on. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Councilwoman. First, I would like to thank everybody for coming out, participating on this phone call tonight. But I want to thank the administration and the directors. It's been a rough and tumble year for all of us. It's been trying with the COVID-19, with all the issues that we've had to share, and you've handled it admirably, as has council. I want to thank especially our health department, Yvette, and your staff, because I know that you have been stretched to the limits, and you continue to work very hard, and we do appreciate you, and I know that the public appreciates you. The first responders, our fire department, our police department, our EMTs, they work so hard, and a lot of them have gotten sick from the COVID, and I'm hoping that we can get this vaccine into the city of Trenton so that we can cut down on these illnesses. The clerk's office, I always appreciate the workers in the clerk's office, and I want to thank Mr. Conlon and all of our workers in the clerk's office, because they work hard every day, and we may not always get along, but they do the city work, and they do it the way they're supposed to do it. So I want to thank them and wish them all the very best in the new year. And I'm going to thank someone that, you would expect it from me, is Jose and the staff at the animal shelter, because I am always getting calls regarding rescuing animals, and when I call them, they take care of it immediately. So I want to thank them for what they do for the animals in the city of Trenton, and for the families that have animals that have issues. I wanted also to bring up the issue with the DCA. Last year, this council voted 7-0 not to accept transitional aid to get out from the grips of DCA. DCA decided they were going to give us a transitional aid regardless, and we couldn't do anything about it. So what is the point of an MOU if they're just going to do whatever they're going to do? The Capital City Aid, they have no business interfering in that, and I agree with Councilman Blakely. As a body, we have to fight this. And my message to the administration is that you do need legal counsel in there to deal with that issue, if that issue alone is huge. I want to thank council. I want to thank you all for the civil comments tonight. I mean, everybody seemed to get along, and this is how our council meetings, we would hopefully be every time we have a council meeting. I want to thank the folks who spoke to us, to ask us questions. I appreciate the fact that you're paying attention to the spending in the city of Trenton. Hopefully, the administration will give us this budget as soon as possible so that we can look at it and we can have these hearings that the public will be able to participate in and have your say in these meetings. And I ask council to make sure that when we get this budget, that you spend time and you look at it, because I'm sure that we are going to have to make some cuts. And other than that, I want to wish everybody a very, very happy and new year, and stay well, stay safe, wear your masks, as the councilwoman said, and thank you again. That's all I have. Oh, one more thing. I wanted to congratulate the council president's daughter, Amira, for getting her law degree. This is her birthday today, and she just passed the bar. So congratulations, Amira. Thank you. Mr. Conlon?
Yes, ma'am. Would you like to entertain a motion then to adjourn?
Yes.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I have a motion adjourned by Mr. Blakely. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Councilmember Vaughn, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. We are adjourned at 8:51 p.m. Everybody have a happy and safe holiday, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy New Year. Please be safe and well. Please remember social distancing during the holiday. Please be well.
Thank you. Good night, all.